Good evening and welcome back to the Celtic Unrestricted View. It's myself, JP, and joining me in this great night we've got planned for you folks is my good man, Mr. Ryan Clifford, Mr. Barry Bannan, and long time no see, Mr. William Glavin. How are you, Mr. William Glavin? How are you, sir?
All good, thank you. Not been on here in a while now, I'd imagine. So always good to come back on. So I appreciate the invite to come on and have a chat tonight.
Amazing, mate. It's good to have you. Bags, how you doing, mate? Not seen you since a couple of nights ago and you were smiling then. Still smiling now, man. It's good to see.
All good, mate. I'm looking forward to this. Obviously, data and stuff's a big part of my sport as well. So William's obviously done a great job in cutting things down. So I'm looking forward to speaking about it and seeing what we can make it.
Aye, definitely, mate. I'm looking forward to this myself. And me, Mr. Sean Maloney, how are you, son? It looks like Big Alan's given you one of his tart for the night. It's good to see you, but how are you?
I was actually expecting you to call me someday, but then I'll get that treatment. No, it's just Big Alan that gets that, aye.
No, just Big Alan, mate.
No, I'm looking forward to this, mate. Dare I say it, it's a privilege, mate, to have somebody like Bazzy Satcher on the podcast, mate, but with William on it as well. It's a very good podcast for a party, mate, in terms of, obviously, we've seen the data, mate, and it's very interesting, so I'm looking forward to getting William's data analysis and his thoughts on what's happening at Celtic, and then obviously counterparting that with Bazzy's knowledge, mate, so I'm really looking forward to this and kind of letting they two do the talk night, mate, and let me and you shut up for once.
I know, because normally when you talk to me, man, I feel as if I've got to put the kettle on and go and make myself something to eat as well. And then I come back and you're still talking away. But no, as Ryan says, William, it's good to have you on, mate. It's good that you've came on and accepted our invitation. Aye, so give you a wee lowdown, mate. You've been up to for the last time since you were on 2 years ago, mate.
Aye, pretty busy to be honest. Obviously back then, I came on obviously had a chat when I used to work as an agent, and we obviously delved into that sort of side of the game. But obviously in that time, I was working as a scout at the time and doing a bit of freelance work for a few clubs. And then I eventually landed a role at Motherwell. So I've been at Motherwell for 2.5 years up until the January transfer window there, but that was my fifth and final window with them. So I am basically free to come back on and have a chat with you guys. So yeah, it's been a busy time. Obviously, we had quite a few managers through that 2.5 year spell. And we achieved some good things. We got top 6 the first year I was there, which was unbelievable for a club like Motherwell, given the budgets we've got. I think if there was a league table and budgets, Motherwell would be close to the bottom, really. So a lot of hard work goes on behind the scenes of that club. I can't speak highly enough about everybody at the club. For the playing staff, the recruitment staff, to the people that look after the ground, like generally everyone works so hard at that club. So it was an amazing experience, and I generally loved every minute I spent there.
Aye, superb. I mean, Bags, obviously, as you just heard there, William obviously was an agent prior to that and then a scout. So some really, I know obviously you're a player yourself, but again, another great bit of experience to, have a wee chat with and get a wee bit of knowledge off you.
No, of course, mate. Obviously, I've worked close with agents, different ones through my career so far. And obviously, I've made it known quite well that after football, I want to go into management and things like that and go down that line. So it'd be good to delve into William's knowledge of how things worked at the background in Motherwell and things like that, because obviously as a player, you do see certain things in that, but your main job is to go out and win games on a Saturday, and you don't really get too involved in that. But as you get older, you start to notice things that have happened in the past and you start to recognise things a bit more. But I'm still probably quite a while away experience-wise for what Williams had for the last couple of years. So it's good to meet him, and no doubt I'll be close from now on to delve in and find a few things out.
Shouldn't have said that, mate, for now. We'll not leave you alone now, man. We'll bet you every 2 minutes. Honestly, you should see my phone messages a day, man. I thought my phone was going to explode at one point today. But no, just as Bad says there, Ryan, it's a great wealth of knowledge, not just to have on the podcast, but just in general. Obviously, different type of experience for Baz. Obviously, Baz is still on the field of play, so to do all that kind of background stuff, that's where I believe all the magic's done, Ryan. That's where I believe all the prep work for for players to go and do the job, like William being a scout and then obviously bringing talent to the team and stuff like that. It's going to be good stories for him.
Aye, it's like I say, JP, it's no often you're privy to that sort of data. And obviously William's got and stuff, and speak to guys in that type of background, it's no often fans get to date JP. So like I said, I'm really looking forward to actually seeing, obviously we've seen it, but for fans to see some of the clips, because no every podcast has got that sort of stuff on, mate. And I know we can see through our eyes, but sometimes the data does back up what you're seeing, and I think we'll maybe see bits of that tonight. And it's obviously good as well for obviously Baz to delve into if that's what you want to do potentially in the future. Then it's obviously good for him to see it as well. But obviously Baz has got a wealth of knowledge in the game. He's played with under so many managers and coaches, and he's been involved in it, mate. So like I say, to be involved in a chat like this tonight, mate, it's very, very ideal for me as well, and you yourself to learn as well. So it's not often you get to get that kind of information, mate. So I'm looking forward to really into it. But obviously, see at Motherwell, William. Obviously at Celtic, they're all kind of working in the same patterns, like the recruitment team and stuff, or does it all depend on obviously your budgets and how you're all working in terms of the grand scheme of how you can go and get players?
Yeah, so it depends on the strategy that's set out really by the manager, head of recruitment, and the chief executive. So obviously budgets are a big part of it. One of the things that happened at Motherwell when I first came in is I had quite good knowledge of Scandinavian football from working as an agent. I used to go out there and used to deal with clubs and players out there. So that was sort of natural for me to go and look at that area. They didn't have anyone with that knowledge in that region. So it started off there. And then what actually happened was, because of the work permit rules had changed, the GBE regulations had all changed, we started looking at different places out with Europe that we could easily bring players in. So we started looking at Australia. That became a big market for a lot of clubs in Europe, in Scotland, sorry. We started looking at Canada. That's an up-and-coming footballing market over there. There's a new league been set up over there. In America, and basically most of my stuff that I looked at was mostly foreign markets, and really just delving into there. Obviously, ANGE came along. Everyone started looking at Japan. That was the thing you do when ANGE started unearthing these talents for really cheap, really, when we brought Hatate, Maeda, and the like over. So, yeah, it depends every year who's coming in. I would say probably more now, just up to our left, Motherwell we're focusing on more domestically and looking at the loan market a lot. Obviously, that comes down to like budgets and things like that as well. But I think the gaffer at Motherwell was really wanted like experience in the team and wanted players who knew British football, especially because it's intense, it's physical. So it made sense for us to do that. So I suppose the last couple of windows it was primarily that, but initially it was the foreign markets that I basically looked at, and to be honest, I enjoyed looking at.
So is it too early to ask you who you're supporting for Sunday then?
I've took my Motherwell hat off now. I've took my Motherwell hat off.
Aye, uniforms away now, that's it.
I went to a couple of games. Honestly, I no word I went to a couple of games at Fir Park. I always had tickets in the main stand, and one time I took my dad, and we're sitting there, and Celtic scored, and he jumped up and shouted, and I had to call him. He was like, he was in the main stand, he's jumped up, and he's like, I keep forgetting. Probably watching this. So no, only one club for me that I support.
So obviously scouting them, is that just primarily your only duty there at Motherwell then?
Right. So basically what we would do is you basically use data to really flesh out the type of player you're looking for. So obviously the manager will have his game model, and there'll be obviously players specific to each position. They've got to do certain things on the field to really for their game model to work. Barry will probably know about this from his time at Sheffield Wednesday and other clubs, but really we're trying to basically piece the jigsaw together. So if we're going to lose a Kevin Van Veen, do we want that same type of player, or do we want a player that can play off that type of player? So we're generally instructed to go and look 6 months in advance. Let's look at plan Bs for Kevin Van Veen. Let's look at a plan B for Callum Slattery. And we just go right through all the markets. So we use data to really give us a short list, looking at certain metrics to measure against. And then we take that list and then we do all the visual analysis. So we basically watch them and report on them. And that's how the process sort of worked there. Which it was pretty basic, but it works. It was the way it worked. And a lot of clubs do it that way now. Some clubs do a lot more in-depth data analysis and then do the visual stuff. But generally, most clubs, I would say, would do the data initially, then do the visual off the back of it, and then eventually it goes to the manager. he would then approve and go, right, okay, let's try and get this guy.
A wee question for you, William, from the Prophet on YouTube. He's asking, did you work with my nephew, Motherwell, Kevin McBride?
Kevin McBride, it doesn't ring a bell. I don't know specifically what he'd done there. Not directly. I don't think I worked with him directly there. To be honest, most of us guys who are in the recruitment department, what was the head of recruitment, we're all spread out over the country. With a guy in London, we had a Glavin who became a good friend of mine in Edinburgh. With a boy in Manchester who really just done live games. That guy just went to games nearly every day. And more the younger sort of ones, we sort of done all the sort of stuff on the computer, the data and the visual via live scout and things like that.
But that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because I think a lot of people hearing that now probably got a better idea of how things work. But I think a lot of people think that you all the recruitment team go into one wee room and they have these wee meetings, and it's like the people's front of Judy, and you know they're all sitting together. And obviously, as William says here, Baz, that you know that's not the way it happens. They all work and they've all got their own individual duties, and they all work like across the country.
Yeah, it's brilliant to hear that, because obviously with teams like Motherwell and stuff, with the resources that they've got, obviously not as big as the two Old Firm teams, but it's quite refreshing to hear that Scottish football is doing stuff like that with the lower league teams in that league as well. Obviously knew they would have a scouting system and things like that, but the way they sound as if they've got it is perfect. The thing you touched on with Kevin Van Veen, they do a scouting 6 months in advance, say I'm leaving and stuff, so they've got somebody to come in straight away. It's brilliant, and that's how you can see probably why teams are probably picking up results this season against the Old Firm, with things like that fans don't really see going on in the background, like good scout team, working on off data. Like you said, I think Brighton down here and Brentford were the main two who probably stuck out down here with going and signing players off database. Sounds a bit like Football Manager, but it does show you that when you actually go and do your studying quite well, and then like William said there, I think the big thing after that is the visual and going and actually watching clips of these players, because you can get carried away with stats a wee bit and look at stats like if you're midfielder, goals and assists, but then you probably got midfielders who don't bring goals and assists but dominate play for your team. So you have to obviously go after you get these stats thrown out of you and go and have a visualise and have a look at the actual players' clips or watch him in a few games just to see if he is the real deal, because I think you can get carried away a wee bit too much in data, but I think that's the way football's gone now, and you can see with some of the teams in England like Brighton and that, they've had some success, whether it might not be success as in breaking into the top six, but financially they're selling on players for millions and millions of pounds, and it's keeping them clubs afloat and in a good, healthy position.
Ryan, obviously, the lads have just spoke there in terms of that experience and knowledge. You know, again, it's probably a massive insight for a lot of people here that's watching just now, because, like I says, it's probably just people just think these guys just get into a room and they'll sit and turn a computer on and they'll all point to the screen and say, right, I'll take him, you take him, I'll take him, you take him, and they're scouting a player. And obviously, that's not the way it works, but that is phenomenal for a club like Motherwell to be so proactive and do things 6 months in advance. You can only imagine what you would think the bigger teams are doing in terms of the way they recruit. They're probably 1 and 2 windows ahead of everybody else. So I'm only imagining so that's quite interesting.
Well, you would think, just talking about Celtic, you would think Celtic would be working in the same capacity or even better, because obviously our windows haven't been great recently, but obviously in the summer they say they're looking at the January window already and stuff like that, and it doesn't seem like that's the case as it stands at the moment. But to hear that obviously lower clubs in Scotland, again, JP, we probably give your game a bit of a service. I do think there's some quality players in Scotland, but well not good enough for Celtic or the team across the water, Rangers. Who knows? Yeah. That's obviously for people to guess and people to for their own opinions. But like Aberdeen recently, Lewis Ferguson, would I sign him for £5-6 million? Probably no. Maybe no. But look at him now for Bologna. There's talking about got Juventus. It just shows you that you can't, as much as I think the guys maybe no, until they really play for Celtic, you can't really, I'm going to maybe reserve judgment now and maybe signing Scottish players because you don't know what they're going to be like when you're in your team. Same with Shankland, I'm like that. Shankland mobile, for me, no quick enough, mobile enough, no good enough to play with Celtic, but he's a goal scorer, so you've got to combat, maybe balance it out. If he is in your team, he might improve. I know he's 28, 27, but who knows, mate? But it just shows you that if that's the way the clubs are working below maybe the top 3 or 4 in Scotland, then it's only going to bode well for the future for these clubs because they're obviously working. But what William says with Van Veen, they maybe know they're going to get some funds for Van Veen. They can plan 6 months for Van, right? Okay, we're going to 500 grand. We'll go and look at maybe strikers for 500 grand. Instead of waiting for loan deals, they can maybe go and buy somebody. So, no, that's really interesting, mate. And I'd imagine it must be hard for teams like Livingston and stuff because we've all known now that Livingston have not really getting anything budget-wise. So, if Motherwell are doing that and they've no budget...
Keep hearing that after Davy Martindale every presser he does.
It just shows you, but even though Motherwell, as William says, might have one of the lowest budgets, to have that sort of infrastructure, to even though have no budget and still have that sort of scouting and recruitment and data analysis and still work hard every day to go and find players, it just shows you, mate, football is, I know us as fans, we just want performances and wins. It just shows you that as much as it might not be good for us, football clubs are business, mate, and they're 24/7. It's just non-stop. And I know as much as the fans will always be there, so will the clubs in terms of the way they're working. So it just shows you, JP, there's a lot more than just putting on a training session and going into the park and scoring goals.
So see, part of your job then doing the scouting, William, is it?
Yeah.
Is it mostly down to, do you do like presentations and stuff for the coaching teams, or so what do you guys do there?
So basically we use a software package that Barry will probably know, called Y-Scout. So Y-Scout gives you access to basically any game in the world, and what they do is they clip footage relevant to a player. So for instance, if I wanted to go and look at all the clips from the last Celtic game there of, Nicholas Kuhn, I can basically just watch every clip, everything related to him, and see how he does. So what we've done was we would do all reporting on that same platform, and then what would happen is that would go up the chain. So effectively, any report I'd done get flagged up to your head of recruitment. If you looked at it and thought, right, okay, he's quite interesting, I'll look at him, then he would vet it, and then it would go up to the manager if they presented it as a viable option. Obviously, our head of recruitment would look at the financials, speak to the agents. Is it doable? Obviously, there's times that they might say it's not doable financially. They can't make it. They can't stretch out that far. Sorry. So then we go to a plan B. But all we were doing is really generating that initial information so that the head of recruitment and all the coaching team can look at it, pull it up, and go, right, here's all the right wingers we've looked at in the last 6 months from this league or that league or whatever way they want to do it. So everything was centralised on that platform, which helped. And I would say probably 9 out of 10 professional clubs probably use Y-Scout in some capacity.
And is that probably the most go-to software that
I would say so, mate. Yeah, like the company that own Y-Scout is called Huddle, and they basically bought it, but they're into everything now in terms of data collection. They install cameras in the stadiums now that basically tracks the ball, so all the analysts get to use that.
Right. That
comes onto Sports Code, which is where they do the tagging for the games and things, and basically the analysts will sit and tag the game during the live game, and then go at half-time, and manager might want to look at, right, let's look at what defending set pieces, or let's look at what attacking phase of play or defensive phase of play. He can at least pull it up on a screen in the changing room at half-time and say, look guys, we need to do this or do that, or let's change the system here or whatever. So everything's becoming really data orientated, but also everything's being computerized to the point of managers need the information there and then. It's not, right, the game's done, let's do a post. They still do a post-match analysis, but you'll see now in the Premier League now especially, they've got analysts sitting in the dugout with them now with a screen, and they're telling them as the game's happening.
Is that with that wee iPad?
They'll have an iPad or a screen, and the analyst will sit beside it, or might even be the one. What used to happen at Motherwell was one of the first team coaches used to sit up in the stand with analysts and used to radio down, and they would say, right, we maybe need to tighten up here, bring the defensive midfield lines a bit closer together, or maybe too wide, bring it a bit more narrow, just as it's happening, as the game's going. And that's the way, I would say sport in general is probably going that way, but especially football now. So yeah, in the Premier League, you'll generally see somebody sitting with a pad, or even just behind them, and they'll be relaying information to the coaching staff to say, look, we need to change this, or this isn't quite working.
But that's quite interesting, because I've always wondered if that was somebody at the side playing Snake or something like that on the iPad, or just maybe watching something off of Netflix. I've never actually known what that person was doing, but that's a great insight again for William there, because again, a lot of fans probably think the same in terms of sitting there. What's he doing? Was he watching, or what? You know, is he watching something? Is he watching another game? Is he watching? You know, I've heard people saying that. Is he watching a different game? Like, what's he doing? But that is quite interesting. That's what, and that identifies. So is that the same at every club then, William? That identifies that he's probably of the video analysis team.
Yeah, if he's, I would say it happens more at higher level because of resources. I don't know if Sheffield Wednesday have anything. They might have someone sitting in the stand doing it on Sports Code, but you now see the top clubs in Europe generally have a one beside them. I think Arteta's big on it, having an analyst beside them. So again, in football, everything comes down to resources. So you won't see it much in Scotland. You'll have analysts working up in the stand there doing their thing, and then they'll do the review at half-time, pre-match, post-match, training analysis, all that sort of stuff. But slowly but surely, you might see it filtering down into the lower leagues.
So Williams just told us here, boys, that's why Gavin Strachan had the trigger happy backpack that one a couple of years ago with a laptop dangling out his pockets and stuff. That's what he was doing. So amazing stuff there, by the way.
No worries, mate.
Aye, boys. So again, mate, a great insight again, because a lot of people probably didn't know that.
We've got a video analysis guy on the bench, so he'll flag things up. So say, I don't know, the team create a chance against us, and the manager, if he's not seen it there and then, he'll come out to the video analysis, he'll have it ready to replay there and then, and then the manager will shout on whatever he thinks went wrong in that passage of play. Or so it's all about being like proactive rather than reactive, getting in at half time and showing everybody it could be 2-3-0 down by then. But now you've got people on the bench saying this is what's happened there, or this is where we can beat their press. They're a bit light, they're light numbered at this side, and it's amazing because you're still going at half time and they'll have clips in like how you can beat the press or what you can do better, how they're getting so much joy against us, and it'll all be like 10-second clips, so it doesn't waste a lot of time. And like you said, I think it's through the app where everything gets broken down, and we've got huddles, so as soon as we're finished our game on Saturday or a Wednesday night, you've got your own huddle account and you'll get the full game sent through to you probably an hour after you've finished, and it's up to you whether you go and watch it or no, but like you can just watch your clips or you can watch the whole game again and really break it down. So it is amazing what they're able to do nowadays, but it does help. It helps a lot with these video analysis. Like I said, it's a big thing, being proactive rather than reactive when it's too late.
Yeah, Ryan, that's again, mate. It's good. Well, it's good information first and foremost. But as I said, a lot of people probably didn't know what that individual was there for.
I always thought it was for the VAR, because after a VAR happens, they're always doing looking at it. That's what I thought it was for. I didn't realise it was for bits of play and stuff. And I didn't know that. It just shows you how football's kind of moved on from when obviously I didn't play at the level Baz played it, but
Ryan, what you'll find is that's the manager trying to see it before the VAR decision's probably made. So so the analyst is probably tagged that attacking phase of play or whatever it is, the passage of play, and then they'll be running out of the screen to go, right, shit, are they going to give a penalty here? You know what I mean? So it's what as Barry said, then they're trying to be proactive, right? What we're going to do if it is, etc. So that's probably what he's doing.
That's what I thought it was for, the VAR. But it just shows how football's moved on now, that you can take it into half time, and actually, obviously, the manager sees it and the coaching staff see it and stuff like that. But to actually see it visually at half time and implementing that at half time, it just shows you how football's moved on technically. And you can obviously help the team by doing that, like Baz says. And during the game, you can maybe something's happened. That guy can say to Danny Rowe, listen, this is going to happen. He can tell Baz on the field. And for me, it just shows how football's moved on now. It's maybe moves on to a better type of football, because that's stuff that it'll help people in the park. Obviously, 20-30 years ago, you won't know that until maybe after the game or something, until even all this data, you don't get that 30 years ago. So I think it's definitely helping players, and for me, William, I think that's brilliant, because if you're maybe you maybe feel you're having a good game, but you might go to stuff at half time, you're actually doing all right. So it just shows you that data can obviously sometimes it can no comprehend what's actually in the park sometimes. But I think that's brilliant because I thought that was just VR. What do you think? That's brilliant.
Yeah, no, 100%. Right, William. Obviously, you've got some nice and juicy stuff for us, so let's get kicking into what you want to start us off with, mate. The floor is yours.
So obviously I'm going to pull up some basically screenshots that we've taken from a document I'd pulled together. This is what we're going to look at. So obviously the contents of it is a data comparison of Brendan Rodgers, his first spell, Angie's season last year, and Brendan as it currently sits right now. Breaking that down, we're going to look at some of the finishing metrics, the passing metrics, defending metrics, and something called PPDA, which is passes per defensive action, which is used to measure how teams press. So if other teams get the ball, and does that team press high up as like a high block, or do they fall back into a low block and just let the team come onto them? This was based on the Hibs game. I sat and watched the Hibs game midweek at Easter Road, and then just the thought went through my head about having to do this, because really I was getting quite confused about what we were doing on the park. So for me, taking a step back, look at the data, and just try and look at it as objectively as possible. But obviously we had that bit of a bad result at the weekend. I then done a game comparison, which is the second part of this, is going to be between the game against Kelly at the weekend and a game roughly about 12 months ago against Aberdeen at Celtic. Both games at home. So one's at Aberdeen at home and one's at Kilmarnock. We're going to look at some of the shot statistics that are there, crosses against, so how many crosses are going against us into the box. Looking at how our build-up play and any differences in that. So really it's going to be a pass map we're going to bring up and look at some of the combinations that are happening on the field. And one thing that I think is really important to look at is basically our players, how they're dribbling, more so the wingers, and how they're performing compared to 12 months ago to now. The sort of final part of this is going to really look at the recruitment over the last 2 seasons. So really Angie's last year, and this year up till now, effectively. And amongst the data comparison stuff, I've got some clips that I'm going to show from the Hibs game. There's some information on it that I'm going to talk about. It'd be brilliant to get Barry's opinion on it, obviously being a pro, and seeing what his thoughts on it. But if anyone out there wants to really ask questions, feel free to do so. So without further ado, as you can see below, there's the 3 seasons we've compared. It's the first 32 competitive matches of each of those seasons, so no friendlies. It'll be domestically and European matches as well. If we bring up the first one, which will be the finishing data. So what you can see there is the light blue is obviously this season, the yellow is Angie's last season last year, and the green is Brendan's double treble winning season. Now, you can probably see on target, this is based on average per game. So looking at the on target, it's 6.63 shots on target on average per game over that 32 game period. So one of the key statistics that stands out here to me is the XG compared to the goals. So if we take the XG of Ange, looking at the yellow bars down at the bottom, the first 2 metrics that we're looking at there, we can see the goals and the XG is roughly the same, which is good. So basically your finishing proficiency is pretty good. We're putting the ball in the back of the net when we should, really. Interestingly, Brendan's first spell, where goals are actually higher than their XG. So you can actually see we're actually probably scoring a few wonder goals probably in there, goals from tight angles. So we're actually performing a lot better than what the expected goals is. But the thing for us this season is the fact that our goals is below what our XG is, which then tells me that we're not taking our chances, which we probably all agree on, I think. We've not been taking our chances this year. Keogh's had a bad bit of form. That's dropped off.
Yeah.
Just pulling up. So basically build-up play, really I wanted to compare how we're actually playing, how we're constructing from defence to attack, really, and looking at what the differences are. Now, very interestingly enough, we're actually playing more forward passes than we have been ever. But we're also playing a high number of back passes, which tells me that we're probably playing a lot of forward passes with Joe Hart to the defence, and then they'll probably pass it back to him. That sort of thing's going through my head at that point. Andrew's obviously very big on don't pass it back, or what was it, stop passing it back was the famous shout that he done. So that makes sense there. But the 2 metrics I want to talk about here really is the sort of top 2. So we'll get average passes per possession. So we're roughly about the same as what we were doing last year, probably just almost the same, of what we were doing last year with Ange. And the match tempo. So basically that's how many passes we were making per minute, 18 passes per minute. It's bang on. So we're effectively moving the ball just as quick as we were under Ange. And then, sorry, we'll bring up this next statistic. Sorry, the defending stats. Again, if you look at recovery in the final third, so how are we regaining possession? So if you actually look this season, we're actually regaining possession a lot, and we're regaining it in the final third. If you compare those two to the very top statistic called PPDA, we're actually pressing a little bit more intensive against teams this year under Brendan, which you're saying to yourself, I don't really see it that way, if you know what I mean. It's quite interesting how the data's coming out like that. But what you're seeing there is conceded goals is roughly about the same. But what I'm going to say about conceded goals is because our goals scored is lower, the conceded goals have stayed the same. So we're averaging 1 goal per game we're losing. See those games that were used to win 3 and 4-1, we're now drawing 1 each, effectively. So that's happened a few, I think maybe 5 occasions this year that's happened. So that's how that's coming into play. So obviously when you look at these sort of 3 slides, to me, and then obviously comparing it back to Brendan's first year as well, we'll go back to the build-up play, I feel as if we're kind of stuck in limbo in terms of how we're playing. Brendan hasn't really set out his clear match plan or his tactical plan to the players. It looks to me like the players are falling back to Ange in terms of default. So they're still pressing high, they're still shifting the ball very, very quickly. They're still trying to get the ball at the park as quick as possible. They're trying to recover it in the final third. But one of the key things that's really changed over the last, well, obviously from last season to this year, but also going back to Brendan's first year, is this. And this is PPDA against. So this basically tells you what teams are doing against us in terms of how they press. So looking at Brendan's first spell, it was doing about 17.85. We're now up to over 20. So it tells you that clubs are now saying to themselves, or managers have evolved and said, right, Celtic play this way, we need to come up with a solution. What's your strategy? We need to fall back. Let's do a low block, make it compact, make it difficult for Celtic to break us down effectively. So I don't know if you've got any questions or anything on that alone just now, just before I look at some of the video.
Ryan,
do you know the backward passes, William, where we were talking about Joe Hart going forward and coming back?
Yeah.
I know you watch obviously Celtic every week. I think a large part of the backward passes are coming through the wingers.
That'll be happening as well, mate. 100%.
Because I just think that we were a bit more direct with Jota, whereas he wanted to dribble past people. I think Lewis Palmer probably passes back a lot. If he's not going to beat his man, I think he comes back a lot to either McGregor or Bernardo. And then on the other side, you don't really have Maeda and Abada, who have played the majority on that other side. They want to run in behind, so they're not really taking the ball. So I just think a lot of the backward passes come from the wingers by no being, I don't want to say no taking their man on, but as much as we've seen in the Ange era with Jota, just want to run at his defender no matter what. If he loses it, he'll go again, he'll keep going and going. I think we've lost a bit of that this season.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that, mate, because one of the things that you can see on the pitch as well is when they don't beat their man, they'll then try and pass it infield and try and recycle the possession to then try and go down the other side. But the other thing that's interesting is a lot of lateral passes that happen as well. You're seeing that a lot with Welsh and Scales over the last few games there. And a lot of it is, for me, and I'll pull up some clips now in it, is the players in front of them aren't moving anymore. So Ange's philosophy was all about rotation, rotating into the half spaces, both sides, maybe dragging the team out to the right-hand side and leaving a winger one-on-one with a fullback. Whereas right now we're not doing that. The players that are in the forward line, that includes Bernardo and O'Reilly to an extent as well, they're staying very, very central in the field. I'll pull up some clips here that probably illustrates it the best way I can. So you can see here, Scales and Welsh are knocking it between each other, looking for a forward pass. Maeda's dropping in a wee bit deep there. But you can see O'Reilly and Bernardo in the middle of the field there are just in the central zone and no one's rotating into the half spaces. You can see Bernardo and O'Reilly there, that sort of tracks their movement. But all Celtic are doing, as you said, Barry, they're just knocking the ball back and sideways, trying to find a way through. but there's no one dropping deep. There's no one rotating into a half space that you can get a little combination of. Even if you look at Ida, he stayed in that same position through this whole sort of passage. There's a wee opportunity. You could have rotated there at that point.
Far too static.
Far too static. So the whole idea of the rotation is really to confuse the opposition so that when they're trying to hand off to each other, you can create more space. And especially doing that in half space.
Yeah. The only one that's really shown in that footage here for the ball was Callum McGregor. And he's trying to get things going. Nobody else rotating off the back of him. Yeah. So that is a real worry. Ryan, obviously, seeing the footage here, Baz, sorry, on you go, mate, if you want to jump in.
I've always said on this podcast, and I've made it well known, that I think Celtic's best player by a country mile is Rio Hatate. It's simply because in them passages of play there, he'll take the ball in the tight areas and he'll turn and he'll commit people, he'll go past people. We've not got him, they like him. I know Bernardo a wee bit's shown glimpses, but I think Rio Hatate, for like when teams go into a low block, he's a man that'll win Celtic the game. He can run in behind, he can take the ball in tight areas, he can turn, he can drive forward, he can eliminate people. And I just think, I said it before as well a few weeks ago, that I think O'Reilly and Bernardo are quite similar in the way they play the game. And another thing with forward passes probably falls back to Carter Vickers. I know it's probably excuses with injuries, but he's another big one for Celtic who will drive forward with the ball when there's low blocks and bring teams out a wee bit and find that pass. And I just think they too, for how much games they've missed this season, is a big reason why Celtic's games probably slipped off a bit.
Yeah, I think sorry, JP, I was just going to say.
No, I was just going to say. Not only that, I think obviously watching that wee clip was it again, William, is that the two defenders playing, the two defenders there, look, playing side to side passes. Do you think some of that's down to their overall ability, or do we think that that's just a safety mechanism for them?
I think, from my point of view, I think they're trying to draw out Hibs, to be fair, and look for them to try and commit. But to be honest, Hibs are just sitting back in that low block. But the forward line really need to be moving and rotating to then, because basically when the defenders marking Bernardo there, you can actually see Tony Ralston's really high up the field here at this point. But really, you want Bernardo, Ralston and Kuhn rotating positions, because then the Hibs defenders will start getting confused. Right, if you got him or if I got him, right, he's dropped into that space. Do I go? Do I not go? Do I stand back? Do I commit? All these questions, you've got to ask questions of the opposition. Like even these little angles here, these arrows we're putting on here showing somebody make an angle for Scales to try and let them pass it forward. Yeah. But it's like the players are not doing it for some reason.
See there, if they did pass, to try to pass to Maeda, if he makes that run, it leaves, I think it was Palmer, was it about Kuhn out left, can't remember who it was. But he's got all that space to then get the ball and drive in. But if Maeda's not getting if he's not making the run, then like you said, Scales doesn't get the angle to play it with him and then start the attack.
Yeah. Ralston's became inverted in that play. So why then, he's got a gap between the left back and the left centre back position to then go and try and penetrate to go forward, even for a chip pass to be made. That's obviously to eliminate, and that would eliminate at least one or two of the midfielders and at least one of the centre backs if you play that ball straight away there. Yeah. And it just looks as if it's just a safety mechanism with them just now. It looks as if they've lost something in terms of, I don't know whether it be confidence or, and Baz, you're spot on. I think Hatate, he forces the runs from other players, the way he turns with the ball and the way he sets and shapes himself. He just forces a direct run off him for the next pass. Whereas we've seen that footage now a couple of times. And across that line, they're just far too static. There's no enough movement there.
One thing I was just going to say about Hatate was, if you go back and look at Hatate last year, Hatate would rotate to the winger position and allow the winger to run inverted. So that would maybe be Jota, that might be Maeda. It used to be Maeda on the left, similar to that game there, to get onto his right foot to then get a shot off or at least get a cross in the box. But it's like Bernardo and O'Reilly are almost stuck in the central zone of the field, and you lose that intensity and that speed with players rotating. And when people are saying to me, we're so pedestrian, yeah, we are so pedestrian because none of the players are moving from zone to zone, creating that confusion in the opposition. And that's one of the key things that are really wrong this year for me in terms of our attacking play this season. And obviously looking at the data that shows you there's elements of Ange still there, but some of the key elements of what Ange brung have now been lost by the looks of it.
Would you say that's stuck? Would you say that's down to being stuck in between two styles of play?
Probably, Barry. I would say. What would you say? Would it be confusing for you guys if somebody came in more radical and wanted to change how he's played, and then all of a sudden somebody else comes in and tries to revert back to something as a default?
I think.
Is it a radical change though?
Well, when Ange came in, I thought it was. When Ange first came in, it was radical. I think to a lot of the players. They're now almost went back a few steps, I think, and I don't know what you think, Barry. If you think would that be different, or would that cause any confusion as a player?
I think the biggest thing is down to the players whether they buy into it. I think when you come in and the guys had that much success as they had last season under that manager, under Ange, I think for then somebody to come in and try and instill what they want the players today after the players doing so well, it's probably hard for the players to like buy into it. Obviously, you've Callum McGregor, he was there under the first time with Brendan, so easy for him. But I'm talking about the boys who Ange signed, which is the majority of the squad, and they look up to Ange and whatever Ange said worked. So for them to then somebody to come in and tell them maybe, I don't want you doing that anymore, I want you doing this. It is hard for you as a player, especially when you've had success doing what you've been told, to then buy into that. And I think maybe that's where we're going wrong. I think they want to do it, but they're reverting back to what's got them success under pressure situations. And when their back's against the wall, if they're 1-0 doing or they're drawn, they're probably thinking, I'm going to go back to what I was doing last season, because when we were chasing games last season, it worked. And then that's, I think, the way the clips there, it's a bit of confusion. Like, I know people are saying about them being static, but they look as if they're in the way of each other, some of them, with Tony Ralston. Tony Ralston's probably taking up O'Reilly's position, so he's thinking, I need to go somewhere else. And it's just like, not a free-for-all, but kind of like they're all in positions where they're getting in the way of each other.
Yeah. I think that comes back to the plan, doesn't it? There's no clear plan, I don't think, really set with the team, which is obviously a worry.
Do you think, Baz, as well, obviously that's where everybody's, well, it's obviously clear to see that there's an element of it happening, but the manager must be making mistakes, because he's either not being transparent and giving clarity in his team talks or his tactical team talks and his team meetings and whatever. Because like he says there, Ralston rotates into where Matt O'Reilly should be, or Matt O'Reilly would have been last year. But Kuhn takes up a position here where he's in no man's land. He can't even create anything because he's got two doubling up on him at the side, and all he's got to do is play back tonight. So he's not even set to then take the ball on. But I think the hardest thing is well in that pass to play, you've got two centre halves there aren't even set to play the ball forward. The two of them, they're go-to. Aye, they're too close together as well. And the go-to there is to turn, either turn back and get back to the goalie, or just play another safe pass. But the only one that seems to be really moving in that whole clip there is Callum McGregor. He wants the ball every time, but when he wants the ball every time, there's nobody moving. And even as William says, he does too static. Sorry, me man, I know you've been... No.
Listen,
you've been rattling Jimmy Calderwood rosary beads that's in your pocket there, trying to get in there for a couple of minutes.
Honestly, I'm just taking it on, and it's brilliant listening to Baz and William just explaining stuff. And do you think now, as much as I'm a massive Rodgers fan, I have been ever since he came to Celtic, even before then, do you think now if the board and the recruitment team and everybody at the club, I'll put this to you, William, and Baz can answer as well, because obviously he's playing under a top manager at the moment as well, in our top club. Do you think, William, maybe if you look back now, the board should have maybe, as much as maybe Rodgers played attacking football, we all knew, me and JP looked a bit about Rodgers' date and stuff, and he was always going to come in and be a bit more possession-based, but we thought it'd be attacking possession-based. Do you think the club should have, I'm not saying go to the Bodo Glimt manager, but somebody who plays similar exact style to Ange, because these players I've been trained for 2.5 years roughly to get this style, to get the formation, get the tactics, to then go and change it, like Baz says, to then go and change it into, right, now you need to keep the ball there, you need to do this. Do you think maybe looking back now, you should have maybe went for a manager that fits? Obviously, it's going to be find very hard to go with Ange's everything to do with Ange, but do you think it should maybe went a bit similar to coincide with the players?
I've said, and I remember saying this back in early, a couple of years ago when I was on the podcast, we need a footballing strategy at Celtic. You know, we need to define what's the Celtic way. To me, Ange defined what the Celtic way was, and everybody loved it. Now, there's clubs that do that. Like, obviously, you've got the Red Bull group who are big on it, and they own a few clubs, but they all play the same method of football. It's all counter-pressing, it's vertical football, it's narrow, it's got little combinations, and it's good to watch. And they do that right through the whole group. There's no reason why Celtic can't do that. But the problem is, I feel that some of the footballing decisions that are made at Celtic aren't made by footballing people. And I think we've always lacked a director of football or a sporting director to really come up with that strategy. Like Dan Ashworth done at Brighton and is now getting linked to go to obviously Newcastle. He's trying to replicate that and they'll go over to Manchester. Someone
do you
of
think
that.
That's what's businessmen? Do you think dealing with football decisions basically?
I think you need a football person in charge of the football department, mate. I've no issue with Celtic get out and getting a chief executive that's going to run it as a business, and that's fine. That's absolutely fine, and he'll oversee everything. But there's got to be a footballing man or a footballing person. It doesn't necessarily need to be a football player. You know, it could be someone that's worked their way up coaching wise or whatever. But it's got to be someone that knows what they're doing to really implement a footballing strategy. Because I guarantee you, if they brought Ange in, that person would have been looking for someone similar, and there will be someone similar out there that's adopted the principles of what Ange has done. Ange isn't doing anything different from what Pep Guardiola is doing. Funny enough, they were in the same City football group, you know what I mean, in terms of the group of clubs they all worked at. So there's obviously an ethos within that as well. And obviously Harry Kewell's now out there learning the trade from Ange, and he's doing it at Yokohama now. So they've got a footballing strategy in place, but I just don't understand why a club like us don't have that. And as I said, we spoke about that a long time ago. And really, I really think we really need it now. And this is apparent why we need it.
We've got a wee comment for Facebook, Williams. Lee Patterson says, I vote William Glavin for that role.
How you doing, Lee? How you doing, mate? I'll get a text after this, no doubt.
I think Lee's been biased there, William, hasn't he?
Oh, 100%, mate. I gave him 20 quid before I come on. I get as a joke. 100%, mate.
You need to give me more than 20 quid for listening to you, I'll tell you that. Trying to keep up with all your information, honestly. God, this is
expensive taste, I know, mate. You'll be expensive taste.
So
I've got some other clips if you want. I can show that it's kind of similar ilk. So this one really is like an attacking transition. So Celtic regaining possession, picking out Ralston and Kuhn in terms of where they are positionally on the field. Obviously, Kuhn's had to track back, but if you look at Ralston, Tony Ralston doesn't really know where to go. Ange would have had him running into that space to then play a ball between the Hibs players, getting past that line of pressure, and then moving it. What we actually do is we actually circulate it back out to the left-hand side, and we end up with basically Hibs have got us covered. We've got a 4v3 really going up the field, and Bernabei tries to play a pass. It's a really poor pass, to be fair.
What is that? What is that? And who's that to?
Exactly. But all that is for me is caused by Tony Ralston just run 5 yards behind that man and create an angle. Because as soon as they play that pass, there's like 5 Hibs players are taking out the game at that point. Then you'll maybe get a 4v4 or a 5v4 at that point up the field, get up there quick and try and take a chance. So again, Barry, you've probably hit the nail on the head, mate. It seems to be confusion, I think, of where players need to be when they don't have the ball and having that spatial awareness to move into those areas.
I think that was clear under Ange. You've seen how fast they were in transitions. It wouldn't matter if it was the right winger or it was the right back. If that space was there, the closest player to that space, he's attacking it, whether it's the right, if it's Tony Ralston or Johnston last year, or if it was Maeda, whoever's there closest to the space, he's attacking it. And I think they're getting caught in between. I think probably Ralston's probably thinking there, I don't want to go here and risk Kuhn losing it. Whereas under Ange last year, it was like, just go. You seen the video, I'm shouting about passing backwards. If you don't go, you're getting dealt. So it was probably drummed in. And I think there is definitely confusion, because these sort of things that we're seeing, it was the same players last year, but they weren't doing these things.
do you think? You would think. I mean, that to me that's bizarre, right? Because is it just me that thinks? Surely to God, they must still have that imprint of muscle memory in them. I know they've got a different manager this time, William and Barry, yourself, mate. But they've had 2 years of a manager making his imprint in them and really hammering home where rotation should be, where players should be in the pitch. And I mean, see right now in the last couple of games, guys, I don't know how you feel, but in terms of me, I just think they're playing like a team that's just been put together. Again, they don't know each other. It's like Baz says there, Ryan, as well. Players running into one another, players running into areas that they shouldn't be in. You know, so for me, it's just right now. It's near enough a shambles because you know tactically we're all other show. At the weekend there, my midfield was totally disjointed, and there's elements of the game at the weekend you're going. It is only a matter of time before Kilmarnock score.
I think William's got a clip, JP, 40, and it's everything that I've said to you through chats and through texts and phone calls the last few weeks. But obviously, we're doing this a bit more and kind of been into a bit more kind of the shape and stuff. I've been looking at Celtic shape recently under RODGERS, and it just reminds me of 10 seasons with Lennon. There's just
is this the back line? Is this what you're
I've put perfect. No, it was a 40. I think you put up. I can't remember what it was. I don't think it was you put it up. No, sorry, I'm telling lies. It was on the chat. I put it was on Twitter, and somebody put it. It was Joe Hart was there. It was for the goal. The 4 defenders, the midfielder, and the striker. There's no shape. McGregor's there. I think Bernardo was there. There's totally no shape. But see when Celtic either lost a corner, they lost whatever they lost, or the ball was to Joe Hart, they went right back into a full 3-3, and it just looks like for me, William. It's probably showing me the data, and it's show. I know still clips can't show you everything, but for me, when I see Celtic now, there's no shape, and it seems to be like even Joe Hart, right? He's always trying to do things quick, right? As much as I don't want Celtic to be wasting time or whatever, you shouldn't be wasting time 1-0 against Kilmarnock at home, right? But see when you're away with other now, when you're maybe strong at games on the line, 15 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago, Joe Hart's still rushing the ball out as well. He's a 36, 37-year-old experienced player. Here's your noggin. Take your time. If it means you need to wait a minute at the end of the game, then just see that minute out after the times. But for me, Bob, I don't know if you think that's shown me the data, but for me, from my own eyes, I just feel that the organisation, whether the manager's not getting these messages across or what they're doing in training, they're not taking it apart. And maybe, like you have said, it's just a free-for-all. Let's just get a goal. Let's just get this game on done with.
I think.
Sorry, lads. I think I've got Big Angie's coffee night.
I think. What you're saying, I totally understand what you're saying. The interesting thing, this was the Hibs game I started doing this sort of analysis. I think since the Hibs game, we changed the shape because he put Kyogo into the side and it's went to almost like a 4-4-2. And I kind of feel as well he's almost doing that to try and accommodate Ida, really, to try and keep him on the field. And to be honest, the things that we're talking about tonight that made Ange really, the way that he played was intensive with the rotations. You can't even do that with that formation. So we're almost solely reliant on how good our wingers are in that shape. And as we've seen over the last few games, the guys that are playing in those positions are really struggling to beat their man. And if they're not beating their man, they're not getting the crosses into the box. So I actually think that's been a mistake with Brendan over the last few weeks. But it also tells me that it feels as if I've got this guy on loan for Norwich, I need to keep him in the team. But how do I get Kyogo back in the team? Because there'll be a bit of fan backlash. I think he's put himself between a rock and a hard place there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what it looks like. It just looks like he's... I seen a comment there for Lisa. I agree, Lisa. I think, you know, there's obviously the message isn't getting through, lads. It's quite obvious that the message isn't getting... It's either not being explained properly or the players are not understanding what he's trying to do, because Brendan Rodgers, the first time, you probably couldn't get any more clearer, you know, in terms of what he wanted the players to do. You know, you've seen a lot of improvements in certain individuals. This time around, it's very, very hard to see any improvement. Maybe out with Matt O'Reilly. You know, lads have took a bit of time to settle, like Bernardo and one or two others. But in terms of guys that are already at the club, apart from Matt O'Reilly, you know, CCV's been bombarded with injuries. Hatate's the same. Greg Taylor's had a couple of injuries in and out. Out with that, lads, I'm struggling to see real improvement with any certain individual. And again, with performances as well, you know, the more the seasons went, we just seem to have stepped right off in tempo, the way we play, and the continuity within the group. And it looks like, Baz, I'll obviously bring you in this one. It looks like just now they're in the land of uncertainty of what's going on.
Well, that we're looking at the clips for the Hibs game there. I think the front three had never ever played with each other before that game. You're going to Easter Road where Brendan hadn't won before that game, and you play that front three. It was a big risk for me, and that's what it kind of looked like. They had never played with each other before, because like you see in them clips, there's people everywhere. Basically, there was no structure to the play. It was kind of like a free-for-all, and I think that's what's been happening in the last few weeks. Obviously, I get you've got to change something, but for me, I would never take Kyogo out the team for playing as a striker. I think the problem this season's been getting the service to Kyogo. I know a lot of people are saying he's not played brilliant. Maybe no, but he's not getting the service that he was getting last year. He's making runs. He's not getting the ball. Jota used to come inside and play passes to him. It's just not happening this year. So I think the problem there is the service to Kyogo and no Kyogo in itself. But we seem to be blaming Kyogo, and Kyogo's at the team for a bit, and then he's playing as a number 10 now. He's the best striker in Scotland, so surely you just play him in his position. He's going to come good at some point. So you've got to. I think that was worrying that we've done that with him. But I just think the last few weeks there's been too much chop and change. I think with Ange last year, he did make changes, but very rarely. And if it was changes, you would be able to call it. And the same subs would come on week after week, same minutes. So they were well drilled in their jobs. I just think this season, the team's changing. I know there's been injuries, but the back four, it's never really the same centre halves. Welsh playing with Scales 1 minute, and then it's Naroki playing with Scales. Then you've got Bernaby to the left, Scales, it's Ralston at the right, Alistair Johnson. I just think there's been too much chop and change, and when that does happen, that seems to me that there's a bit of panic kicking in, and it's what can I do here to try and turn this, rather than sticking to, like William said, having a style of play and sticking to it. Ange done it. The first 6 games under Ange, everybody was like, well, what's going on here, like results-wise? But he never changed, and I seen it in pre-season because we played him this first ever game in Wales, and he was inverted fullbacks. We were winning the ball back, and I was thinking, this is what are these doing, Celtic here? And you can see that at the start of the season in the league, but you've got to believe in what you're doing. And like I said, no matter if the other team know what you're doing, if you do it so well that it's that well drilled, they can't stop you. And I think we went away from that this season a bit, and we're trying things like Kyogo's not a 10. He's never been a 10 in his life. He's an out-and-out goal scorer. He's a poacher, if anything. And to be playing him 10's taking away his biggest threat, and probably the biggest threat on the park for Celtic. So I just think recently we've done things that are strange, and I think it seems to me that it's a bit of pressure and what can I do to change this?
Because it's saying what JP and William, what Baz is saying there for me, it kind of backs up what you're saying with Kyogo. Don't know if you've got data at all, William, or no in the night, but in general about Kyogo, because for me, he done a run on Saturday, and I think it was the second half, and the ball could have been played to him at the other tap or down the channel, and he's made the run, and the ball's not played to him, and he's like that. He's getting really frustrated, and I seen his run. His run was amazing. It was his movements world class, and nobody's finding him. I don't know if that's due to, has it not been brave enough? Has it not been confident? Has it been scared to make a mistake because of the pressure of the crowd, or the pressure because you're only 1-0 up? But under Ange, even if you were 3-0 up or nothing each, they were still trying to play really risky passes. And I know I'm a big believer, William, obviously Baz yourself, especially recently, some of Baz's performances, some of the balls he's playing through are phenomenal, and that's the balls that Celtic would normally do to get to the strikers, and they're not really doing that, William. Do you think that's due to, Baz obviously came in with that as well, but do you think that's due to obviously lack of confidence or lack of taking risks? But for me, under Ange, for me as a fan, I don't mind guys make mistakes if they try things. If you make a mistake, okay, right, get back and get the ball back. But for me, what epitomised the full thing about us maybe taking a risk and no chasing back was for the goal. I was right in front of when Yang lost the ball, he just gave up. I've lost the ball. And then that entitles then for going there to Kuhn, then to Ralston. Ralston was shutting down, Bernabeu being soft as hell, and then a goal. So it all came for Yang kind of gain up, no chasing down, try and get the ball back, and then it all go on for there, and then the goal.
Yeah, I think just to go back to what you're saying, obviously, yeah, you need players with a wee bit of confidence really to play those type of passes. You can see confidence is down. Like I think that's apparent to what we're watching every week at the minute. But one of the, as I come back to talking about the rotation thing again, one of the key things that the principle he had is those rotations created space, and it created space for Kyogo to attack. Also, as well, I would say Kyogo's been, I think this is his second full season now. I think with his clubs don't stand still, defenders don't stand still. They're now, I guarantee you, there's clubs watching how Kyogo moves, and they'll be doing everything they can. I've noticed this year teams are getting a bit more physical with him to really try and knock him off. And I think it's a combination of both things there. But what I'm saying is I think a lot of the build-up play were not moving enough to create enough space for little channels or pockets of spaces, especially in the half spaces, to get people in to cut the ball back to Kyogo and tap the ball in the net. That's not happening enough this year. As I said, we've already touched on it. It's probably a bit of limbo and a bit of confusion because there is no clear plan put in place.
Also, another big key factor I thought, as you were saying, Baz, about Maeda and guys running about Kyogo, I think in Jota, I think Abada's been a big miss for Kyogo this season as well, with that kind of low, hard drive across the face for Kyogo to run in. He loves that wee kind of clipped kind of finish at either near post, back post, or even through the middle. So I think Abada has been a big, not just for Kyogo, but Abada's been a big miss for Celtic this season as well. You look at his numbers alone. Again, I don't know what the data would be on Leo Abada, but it just seems as a fan watching him, his goal return is very impressive. And like I say, I think Celtic have missed him dramatically this season as well. Again, a big player for us under the ANGE era. And then when he's dropped out of the team with that lengthy injury he had, and now obviously he's got personal issues and mindset problems at the moment, as we've been led to believe. He's been a big miss for us, Buzz.
100%. I think he was one that would do a lot of running after the ball, timing his runs. So it wasn't just Kyogo defenders were having to look for; they were having to look for Abada as well. So they had a lot of problems last year. Teams, rather than just singling out players, they had quite a few. But I think Maeda is quite similar to Abada, but he's probably his end product, whereas Abada's wasn't great as well. But I just think being on his natural side, Abada was I think Maeda prefers on the left, which has been a problem probably for his form this year. I think he's had to sacrifice for Palma, going out in the right hand side, and he doesn't look the same player out there. But he definitely has missed the service, whether it be Jota or Abada or Maeda, by changing side this season. I think a lot. I know William's saying defenders are obviously studying and trying to figure a way how to stop him scoring goals, because like I said, he's probably Celtic's main goal threat. But I just think when I've never seen movement like it in my time since I've been watching Celtic. I think his movement's unbelievable, and I don't think if people are taking risks in the middle of the park to try and find him, I don't care what the defenders do. I don't think they can stop it, because it's that good a movement and that quick that if the ball comes, it's hard to live with him. Defenders are obviously watching the midfielders building up and trying to watch him as well, and he's that quick that by the time he's gone, the reaction times aren't quick enough to catch him. I just don't think he's had enough good service this season compared to what he was getting last year.
I think we've seen. Sorry, Ryan, I'll let you in a second, mate. I was just going to say, obviously, Ryan, what Baz was saying there about Kyogo's movement, I tend to agree with Baz there, because I think we saw how quality he is just in a snippet. You know, look at the one way at Celtic Park, Goldson thinks he's away behind, and he just jinks his run, he just stops. gathers the ball. What a pass! I mean, what a pass that is from Notsky to O'Reilly, and then O'Reilly to turn in and to swing that ball into Kyogo. But like I says, I think the movement makes that goal even better with the wee man, because the wee man faints as if he's going in behind. Golson's already set and he's gone. And I think that alludes to what Baz is saying there, William, in terms of his movement so sharp. It's like it comes to a needle point, and then he's the only guy I know can change direction, similar to Maeda, in that he can change direction, but still complete a full sprint to then go to a different direction and get there at the other end of it. So when he drops his shoulder, Golson thinks he's away. He then gathers that ball, and that says it. I mean, that finish is unbelievable. But for me, lads, I don't know how any of you feel on this, Ryan. I'll let you in on this first, and then the boys can answer this after that. But he's the main talisman for this team. And for any time this season he's been taken out of the team, in my opinion, lads, that is criminal. For all the reasons that we are discussing right now, that is criminal. Because nobody, I don't care who it is, nobody else at this club can light a candle to him.
No, well, like I says, maybe I think I can't remember if it was before the Hibs game. I did say as much as he shouldn't be ever out of the team, just because he wasn't performing well in the way he was playing. I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not playing and play the big boy Adam up front. But realistically, JP, in my heart of hearts, I know the wee man should not be on the bench. He shouldn't be, should never even need it. But just because his form wasn't great and stuff, I was like, maybe he deserves, but maybe put him on the bench and say, listen, you can't play here every week if you're not going to be well.
Ryan, we've lost you. If you can hear us, Ryan, we've lost you, mate. We've lost your audio.
Yeah.
That's us.
There we go.
Yeah, it's better. That's us, yeah.
I think in terms of the wee man, the reason why I was saying that is because he wasn't performing. But like Baz says, he's not getting the service. But I was going to say to you, Baz, see if you're just in that Celtic team. I know you're with Sheffield Wednesday, but see if you've got a striker like that, would you always be making sure, listen, as much as we can, try and get the ball at him, because you've all, like you says, we all know goal scorers, as much as maybe Shattered at Hearts, maybe not Celtic, but they're worth their weight in gold. They'll win your league titles, and I always say defences will lose your league titles, forwards will win your league titles, and if you get the ball to him, Baz, I think, let's be fair, I think you'll win the league. If he gets you goals, you'll win the league.
You've got to take risks, because the runs he makes loads of runs a game, and even if it means you're overhitting them into the goalie's hand, it's making them defenders think every time you're on the ball, I might need to drop here because they keep looking for him. And then that gives you O'Reilly space and Hatate space and Bernardo. So sometimes you just got to play the game with centre-halves as a midfielder. And even sometimes, you're not going to get him in. It's worth hitting it, because then it makes their line drop further and further and further. And then that's where you get your space for your number 8s or your 10s to come in the pockets and get turned. So sometimes you do passes and the defender's going to head this year, but it's going to come down to your number 8s. But the next time you get the ball again, them centre-halves will be definitely dropping, because they know if you keep getting it and he keeps trying to look for Kyogo, we're going to have to drop because we can't catch him. He's too quick. And then that's where he's either in or he's no. And then you as a midfielder, then you'll see other pictures with the 10s or the wingers coming inside to these spaces that defenders are then leaving when they drop. But I just think Hatate's perfect for it. I know I keep saying Hatate, but how many times you see Rio Hatate getting the ball away and fans going mental saying, what's he doing? But he's trying things that eventually, maybe it's once or twice, but if Hatate gets an assist in a game, he's done his job. He might give 5 or 6 away, but it just takes that one ball to get him in and it's a goal. And that's what midfielders who are attacking midfielders, that's what they do. And I think Bernardo and O'Reilly's had an unbelievable season, assists and goals wise, but I just think they could maybe be a bit more braver in their passes by trying to unlock defences a bit more, and especially with somebody like that in front of you, I think it could be happening a lot more.
Obviously, I mean, you're spot on, mate, in terms of what you're saying. Hatate is different gravy. I mean, he's the only midfielder that's got that kind of X factor, as I would call it. And obviously I rate Callum McGregor very highly. But out with that, the wee man's, you know, he's probably. I agree with you, Baz. I think he's slightly better than Callum McGregor. I know Callum's obviously the captain and he gets looked upon as a kind of higher bracket there, but I think that he's massive for this team. And I really do think he's a man. But I personally, lads, I know attacking, we're struggling now, but obviously, William, we're going to have a wee chat about it. But I think a big factor this season for us is the inconsistency we've had at the back as well. And I do think defence is, you know, has been a big issue for us. Yeah,
and one of the things that I obviously looked at from the game at the weekend was the amount of crosses that we actually get into our box now and have to deal with. Obviously, being one that they actually scored from. So I pulled this off Y-Scout at the weekend. The sort of picture on the left shows the Aberdeen game from 12 months ago. If you look at the picture on the right, that's Saturday. That's how many crosses went into our box. Obviously, one of them that they scored from, but that's another issue this year. I think we're letting too many crosses into our box this year. The fullbacks don't engage early enough with the wingers. One of the games that sticks in my mind is the Lazio game, but Taylor didn't run out. He closed down that man as soon as he could, allowed him a wee bit of time, a bit of space to whip that ball in. Don't get me wrong, he scored a great goal from it. But even the game at the weekend as well, I think Tony Ralston needs to really get out there as quick as he can. And I don't know if there's a bit of panic. Barry, you may be able to tell me this with the boys that you play with, but I don't know if there's a bit of panic now that if the ball comes off their arm, it's a penalty because of VAR. Because you see the fullbacks run out now and they've got their hands behind their back to try and stop that cross coming in. So Tony Ralston did do that at the weekend. But yeah, for me, I think we've got to look at that and assess how we basically stop that from happening more often than not. Because even then, even thinking about Joe Hart likes a punch, doesn't he? He doesn't really collects the ball. And then it really just gives them another second phase of play to then put the ball back in the box again. So that's one of the areas that I looked at the weekend that looks as if it's a concern at the minute.
It looks as if teams have looked at ways of how they could score against Celtic, and you see Celtic being quite soft and they probably no great at set plays really, and you see teams try to play for a lot of set plays and free kicks. So they probably thought in open play, just put crosses into the box. They struggle to defend crosses, and like we talked about Y-Scout, that's probably where a lot of goals were maybe conceded last season, and teams are trying it a lot this season. Touching on the Anthony Ralston thing, I said the same to Ryan. That was the biggest thing for me that I touched on. I think it's 92nd minute. I know you're tired in that, but you're 2 minutes away from getting 3 big points. I think you've got to give everything to get out there and get in the line of the cross at least. Listen, Tony Ralston, probably the last person you can knock for commitment and trying hard. He always gives 110%. He might have been tired, but I think you've got to probably try and stop that cross a bit better. It's hard to say with the VAR thing because we've not played with it down here in the Championship, so I wouldn't know. But I just think as a young boy growing up at my academy at Aston Villa, our academy and reserve manager were massive on stopping crosses coming into the box. But I just think nowadays the game's probably changed a bit more, and you're looking at your fullbacks now as ball-playing players to try and create and probably try and defend, but not probably looking the way football's gone. It's as if fullbacks need to be really good in the ball now rather than actually defend and try and stop balls going into the own goal. And that's why I'd probably say Kyle Walker's one of the best fullbacks in the world for me, because he can do everything. He can do it all, but I just think maybe the modern day game, we're starting to probably look at fullbacks as can they assist, can they score, can they keep the ball, rather than actually can they defend. Maybe that's what's happening with crosses coming into the box, but I definitely feel it's a big problem for Celtic. Crosses, set plays, free kicks, long throws. For me, watching them the last couple of years, even under Ange, set plays were a problem, and you always thought that's where a team was, if they were going to get a chance, would be from a set play.
I've got actually a set play from the Hibs game, Barry. It'd be good to get your thoughts on it. It's actually the goal Dylan Levitt scores. But if you've watched this clip here, obviously 2 Hibs players in the centre area of the box. Look how many players we've actually got falling back to try and deal with that. 5 of them. and then Dylan Levitt's hanging outside the box ready to pull the trigger. Obviously, Callum's a wee bit further away; he can't quite get there. But I don't. For me, it's just organisation. You know, at least let 2 or 3 guys drop back, and the other 2 guys push up. Anyone that does their homework about Dylan Levitt knows he can strike a ball for there and he can hit the target. So they don't seem to be working on that, or the message just isn't getting across in terms of set pieces. Set pieces were a big bugbear of me for a long time with Celtic, and watching that again on the game at Easter Road really was just something you really had to highlight, because it's just unacceptable, I think, for the level that the guys are at.
William, can you play that clip again?
Aye, sure. There you go.
Right, so here we go. So they're lined up zonally there. Okay, right.
Yeah, we're holding the line.
So ball comes in. They're all going to the same area.
So yeah, you've got 2 Hibs players in the middle. You've got 2 Hibs players going for the ball, right? But if you look at the other 5 Celtic players, they're all caught in no man's land, effectively. No one's really picking up.
The 2 Hibs players outside are just sitting themselves.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
But look at Maeda. Watch Maeda, right? As well. Now, I'm not even worried about it. So look at Maeda.
He doesn't go to the ball when it comes out loose.
He's in absolute no man's land.
No one. Someone should be a player there on that position on the D, especially with Dylan Levitt there for me, and that completely nullifies that threat. It's just a wee bit of organisation that's needed at that moment in time, and I think touching on obviously the centre halves, obviously that we've got boys there that maybe not played a long time together. Well, Luke, we've lost a lot of experience in the last 12 months in terms of Starfelt and Carter Vickers. I don't think they would have allowed that, but even then, we have always struggled for some reason for set pieces. So there seems to be a problem there that really needs resolved.
I just think looking at it there as well, it's panic, because when you don't defend set plays very well, you could probably get clips from the first half of that game that night, and there'll be set plays like you say, maybe Joe Hart coming and punching, and it's a scramble, or the mere set plays that come into your box in that game, the more you start to panic and you start to do things that you wouldn't do. So you get 2 people going for the same ball, thinking I'm going to have to win this here because nobody else has won it. So you might get the 2 centre backs going and attacking and leaving space inside them, and panic just kicks in, and you start doing things that you wouldn't do. But there was actually a 6v4 there in the box in our favour.
Yeah.
And 2v2 in the edge of the box with McGregor and Maeda. And we concede a goal for it. So we've got we're actually overloading them. And we're all right in the edge, because I think it's Boyle that's gone to far right.
Yeah.
But the boy, is it Johan and Levitt on the edge with McGregor and Maeda? We're outnumbering them in the box for the actual first contact, and then the edge of the box, it's a 2v2, and it's just, I think McGregor probably gets caught ball watching the situation, and Levitt runs off his shoulder.
The first phase of that play there, we don't even win the ball.
No,
we don't as a Hibs player, aye. The Hibs player wins first contact.
It's actually a blocker. Watch it.
Yeah, it's first contact for the Hibs. Yeah.
And then we don't even get near the second phase of play either.
No. First contact's the Hibs player, second contact's the Hibs player. Do you know what I mean? It's second balls, man. There should be somebody there ready to get that second ball, to at least nullify that, and we don't. And that's what I'm saying, but we just cause our own problems, really invite a lot of pressure on ourselves as well. And clubs know that now, as Barry was saying, you know, that's what they're going to do to us all year. They're going to test us out in that. You saw that at the weekend, there's 15 crosses at the box compared to 3 from last season. Clubs know they're vulnerable.
They also know that we're going through a period at the moment, William, that we're low in confidence just now, and we start trying to play safe, which then indeed invites pressure on us, because when we start playing square balls, they just bring in 1, 2, maybe 3 guys up, you know, they start pressing us then, and they go, and their heads are probably going, this mob don't want this here, this mob, you know, let's go and get after this mob, because they'll just give you the ball back.
Well, that's similar to what I think, like I've said to you this morning, JP, and I think I said to you, Baz, on Monday, Alan. I think Celtic have lost a few facts at Celtic Park, even away from home now. Celtic under ANGE, even with RODGERS, his first spell, people can say it was a poor Rangers team or whatever, Aberdeen team, whatever. You've got to beat what's in front of you. Celtic won his first spell with RODGERS, Dembele, etc., McGregor, Brown. The game is won in eternal. It was the same with ANGE. Kyle goes on form, Hatate, McGregor, Jota, Abada on form. You're like, Jesus Christ, we're going to... Even name across the water, Rangers,
Even a bench trying the bench.
That's what I mean.
Giacomakis not even been on your bench.
A lot of people say that Giacomakis, but see now, looking back, it was night and day compared to what we've got to the bench to come on after. But even the big boy for Norwich, we've not seen much in it because he's not really had much service. But it doesn't scream a guy that's going to come and score 20 goals for Celtic. Even Giacomakis, when he was coming off the bench, I think he went through a stage of 5 or 6 games having like 3 touches and scoring goals. It was crazy. His strike rate, but I don't know how you feel as well.
Goals, it was like 5 or 6 goals. It was just one touch finishes. It was.
But I think William, for that, even for that corner, it just shows you take away the corner into normal play. I know you've got some stills there. It just shows you what we are seeing. The back has just gone from Scales to Ralston to Welsh, back to Hart. But with Ange, it was off in the middle. The odd pass for Vickers to Starfield, but the ball was always going forward. And now it just seems it's gone from here to here. Right, we're trying to right, if we can, it's back in the middle and back to Joe Hart.
I think I saw a question there, JP. The right saying that I think we've got it to win the league. Was that right?
Whatever.
Right. To answer that question, I'm concerned. I'm concerned from all these things that we're looking at, and the data shows us that there is no clear strategy, but also shows us that the players we've got are probably not as good as what the players were last year, and they're inexperienced. And that, for me, gives me a concern because we could have rectified this, not fully, but to some extent in January. But we decided to go and get a Kuhn from Austria, which is fine. I think he'll become a good player. He was performing well in Austria at the time. I had a quick look at him when we signed him in terms of the data. He was performing well there. But to go and sign Adam Ida was baffling to me, completely baffling. I think, obviously, the managers came out and said they wanted pace and power, which is probably a wee bit different for Kyogo. But, like, so how do you fit the two of them out of the team type thing? Do you know what I mean? We're talking about Kyogo being this talisman. He's a different profile to Adam Ida. I kind of felt as if that was a bit of a desperation signing. But also to touch on that as well was this sort of stuff I'd pulled off Wyscout. Again, it's both games 12 months apart. We can actually see on the left, the Aberdeen game, the green circles represent a successful dribble and the white square is unsuccessful. Apologies, the format of it isn't great. But what you can clearly see is between left and right is the amount of times we're dribbling the ball and not being successful. Look at the first half, really the sort of third pitch along from the left. All those ones in the tops for Lewis Palmer losing the ball.
Jesus.
And we're sitting here talking about the sort of strategy and how we're playing. We'll talk there, the last couple of games we've changed the shape, and the shape really relies on our wingers being good and getting the ball into the box, but we can't even get by the first man on a lot of these occasions, which tells me the ability's dropped from last year. So these are the sort of things that gives me the sort of cause for concern this year. I think we need a wee bit of luck on our side as well. It could come down to the Rangers games, who knows, but the way we're going now, it's going to take a lot for us to rectify, especially given the fact the squad is the squad. We're going to need to work with that, and whatever strategy they're going to take, and the fact that we're talking about, obviously, they've changed the shape, and it does seem a bit of desperation to change the shape. We're going into March next week, and we're talking about having to change the shape to try and play better. That's worrying for me.
What's your take on that, Buzz?
I've said it all along about Palmer. I know people have said he was stats. This is why I think stats-wise sometimes you need to go and watch games. I've seen loads of games this season where Palmer's got a goal or an assist, but when you actually sit and watch the game, I remember the game in the Cup against, was it Bucky?
Oh, he was terrible.
He wasn't really beating his man that day, and I was thinking that it's worrying, because if you can't beat a guy who's part-time and go past him, then what are you going to be doing when you're playing against people in the SPL? So a lot of the problems, like William said, is the wingers. I says they pass back too much. I know there was a lot of rotation last season, and William touched on it. We had Hattati rolling out, Greg Taylor running inside, Hattati getting the ball, dribbling, making 2v1s. That's not happening this season either with the two centre mids or the 2-8s. So, like you said, then you go for playing 3 midfielders now to just 2. So you're relying on your wingers getting the ball, beating their man and getting balls into the box. And you can see with the chart there that there's too many unsuccessful dribbles. when you play with two centre mids, we do it at the minute. We're a 5-2-3 at Sheffield Wednesday, and we've got two wingers who are direct, quick. Don't get me wrong, they're still young and know the finished articles, but you can give them the ball sometimes and you know that they're going to get you up the park and they're going to win you a throw and they're going to win you a corner. They're just so direct. I don't think our wingers are direct enough at Celtic at this minute in time to be playing with two centre mids.
I agree. I agree with Baz. I think, JP, I've said to you that the only two direct wingers we've really had, old school wingers, was Jota and Abada. Abada's, for this reason, he's not done it as much this year due to circumstances, whatever else. People can comment on what they think why, but with Jota, Jota was, I don't want to say that Edward, but Edward, you're bum off your seat. He excited you, soon as you get the ball, like, only go in, take him on, be brave, go and do something. With Jota, you knew he's got to do something. See, when Palmer gets the ball, or Maeda get the ball, do you really get up and go, only go in, take him on? No, really, no. When Palmer first signed, he's a wee bit like, only go in, take him on, got a wee assist, got a goal. We think this boy looks all right, but we're really, I agree, the boy Kuhn, I'm really wanting to try and give him a bit of time.
What I will say there, Brian, is you're talking about Palmer. Palmer is still getting assists.
Aye, I get that,
He's
but
still doing that. He's still
I
affecting the game in that aspect.
I agree with Baz in terms of sometimes the data does confuse you, because for me, on the eye, Palmer's no doing great. Like you say, the dribbles, and he's if he can't get by his man, it's just like, okay, I'm going to buy my man. Instead of trying to buy him, what I noticed is, William, I don't know if you noticed as well, William, if the data is compared to it or whatever, but what I noticed was in the first half, the boy Lewis Mail get booked, right? And I believe if you go at your man once and he gets booked, keep going at him. Keep going, because eventually he'll lash out, or he'll make a silly tackle, or eventually you'll get by him because he knows he can't touch you because you get sent off.
Yeah.
Didn't buy him once. After that, just why not? Why I don't know why. I don't know whether it is confidence or, but our wingers they just don't go. We've done it with ANGE, and look what happened. See, when we scored, when Kilmarnock scored, I was like, game's done, it's a draw. But under ANGE, with 5 minutes to go, you're like, right, get the ball, we'll get 2 goals here. And I just don't. I'm really hoping that, I still believe, William, that we'll win the league because of the players we've got, and the manager's been here before. He's experienced it, but like I said to JP now this morning, as much as I never ever question about sacking managers or even contemplating this manager, William, but if we don't win on Sunday and you go for potentially 13-11 to 8 to then potentially -4 or -5 points on Sunday, there's going to be questions asked the manager, because you can't go for that swing at any level of football and no have a question about the manager, or is it the players and the manager. You've got to, there will be, I'm guessing Baz will know better because he's playing in that profession, but I'd imagine there will be talks between certain parties.
Aye, I think just getting back, I know Palmer has got a decent return in assist this year, but one of the key things that I would be looking for a player like Lewis Palmer is doing it in the key moments and when we need him. And I don't think he does it at those moments. I think, like for instance, you just hit the nail on the head there, Ryan. You've got a defender booked all day long. You're running at him and try to beat him, at least get him to commit.
Especially with your pace, you're a bit of pace.
Get a penalty out it, get him sent off, anything. You're trying everything to make that happen. But he has got a decent return assist this year. But when you look at the overall picture for me, I just don't think he does it in the moments when we need it. And I think we had players like that before. Jota was a player like that. You know, you had guys used to step up. RODGERS used to be a player like that, but step up and pull us out a hole in moments. We don't have players like that anymore. And I think that's probably going to lead me on to talk about, just briefly at the end, is really the transfer policy that they've had over the last couple of years. That there's too much of a focus of us trying to find a hidden gem and signing all these players for around the world, and not really drilling down into what we need right now, because we seem to be letting experience leave and we're bringing less players with less experienced players in, and then we're all sitting questioning why things aren't working. And I think a big part about playing for Celtic is your mental ability to cope with pressure every week, because I don't think there's many clubs in the world that need to win every single game, whether you're playing Real Madrid or Bucky Thistle. I think that's a massive part of it, and I think players do get a bit of a shock to the system, especially when they come in at 21. But you've got to compensate. You've got to almost, if you're bringing players that in, you've got to bring guys in beside them that have been there and done it almost to help them along. And I think we've lost a lot of those players over the last couple of years, and I just don't think we've replaced them.
I think as William as well. You said there, obviously the young guys, but you know, a lot of these young guys, I think, they've came from the end of the world, and some of them don't even probably speak the language. And, you know, you take a look at, you look at guys like Cohen, right? I mean, they've loaned the boy out to St Mirren, probably didn't know anybody at all. And for what I'm gathering, what I'm hearing and what I'm reading, he's performing very well for St Mirren. But he was never given a proper opportunity at Celtic. He was brought on in a pre-season friendly against Wolves, done okay, played against Atletico Balboa, never had the greatest of games, and then was never seen again until he was out on loan to St Mirren. So I think that treatment in itself is very harsh. You look at the lad Yang, who seems to must have a bit about him because he keeps getting into South Korean squads when the international breaks are coming, albeit he's probably not at the top of the list in terms of selection in the first 11, but he's been taken along for the experience. Surely a guy like Yang, who's been brought again from the other side of the world, deserves more of a chance in terms of a guy that's had more than enough opportunities than Mikey Johnson.
And it's not the player's fault either. It's not the player's fault. You know, the player's been recruited for whatever reason it's been to come in, and maybe Cohen was meant to come in and maybe needs a year to bed in. I don't see that being a problem. But I do think that the policy has been we're bringing more of these guys in that probably do need to bed in maybe over 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, whereas we need players now. Do you know what I mean? We're letting guys that Starfelt go, try to replace them with Norovki and Glagabierka, who I actually think are two decent players. I actually like Norovki because he likes to drive forward and try and create something. I think Glagabierka, because it's something about him. I saw about him in Sweden and he stood out for me when he was there as well. But, you know, they're coming into a different environment, a totally different pressure cooker that Celtic is. Some players take a bit of time to bed in. So is that what I'm saying here now? When I'm saying that the players aren't doing well enough or not getting the ability at the minute, I'm not knocking the player. I'm knocking the people making the decisions on that. And I don't think it's completely football decisions all the time. I think there's definitely more of a business aspect to it. Or signing another off at 4 million and in 3 years' time selling them for 15 down to the Premier League. And I think there's too much of that. It's too weighted on that side for me when you actually look at the players that were brought in over the last sort of 24 months.
But as that probably alludes back to, you know, William speaking earlier about maybe needing a sporting director, you know, someone to come in and be that go-between the manager and, you know, and the setup and what's going on. Because, again, the questions would be asked, again, I know you've mentioned it, William, but the questions would be asked, would Brendan be up for working at Celtic with a sporting director? You know, does he want to be the man who makes most of the decisions? Because I don't know about yourself, Baz, but just now, mate, it appears that he's not really getting the final say-so in terms of the recruitment. Because in the summer, it looks like the majority of that business had already been earmarked out by Big Ange and his merry men, as they were called.
I think the biggest thing is, like William touched on, kind of thing, is the here and now. You don't get time at Celtic, so you might get the odd project where you can bring one or two in, but you need to be bringing 4 or 5 next to them too that are here for the here and now to bring these boys along. You can't just keep bringing 20, 22-year-old, especially like for different countries that, like I touched on Monday, like they might be coming for clubs that it's all right to lose, because some clubs you do go to, you lose, you get home, you go about your life, and it's fine to lose. You can go out in your city. It's completely different in Glasgow. You can't go out until you get your next win or later on that week. Like these boys might be going out like your Palmas and that after a draw at home, thinking, I'll go out tonight, I'll go for food. And fans are like, what you doing out? They'll be like, oh. That's what probably happens in Glasgow. I know it does. It will happen. So it's a culture shock for them. So that's how you probably need to. I don't mind that, because you've got to think of the future for the club as a business as well. Bring some young boys in, build them up, sell them on. I totally get it. But you've got to be bringing probably 2 or 3 of them in, and then probably double that in experience, or 1 or 2 young boys with 3 or 4 who are here for the here and now and can bring these boys on. Like Aaron Moy last season, you probably look back at that signing and think that was Celtic's best signing. He was brilliant. And he was, early 30s, knew what it had been in England Premiership, played for the Aussies, got promoted for the Championship, winning mentality. He was Celtic's best signing last year, and at first that was getting questioned, but it turned out to be an unbelievable signing. You lose him, and then they're the kind of people that you need. I seen somebody else saying on Twitter about when Celtic sign people like Paul Hartley and Barry even people like that, like they're signings that you need because they know what the club's all about and they know what the city's about. They know, even if they're not going to be starters, they can come in and explain to these boys, this is what yous need to be doing, and if he's doing this, you can't do that. Like, you need experience, and I think that's a massive thing that Celtic are lacking this season. You see, Rangers have got experience. They brought the boy Butland in, who's been a great signing. You've got like Goldson, Lundstrom, Ryan Jack, Tavernier. They've got loads now there as well who are been there a lot. They've all lost quite a lot. Don't get me wrong, they're always losing, but they know what it takes to play for Rangers and what's wanted for their fans. And I think that's probably where we went wrong this season with the recruitment side of things, by bringing in too many young people, and it'll probably take them too long to get up and running, and you don't get that at Celtic.
No,
I think overall, Ryan, just as the lads. Sorry, William. Sorry, mate.
No, I was actually just going to bring up the signings up until now, and as was just saying there about young boys that have come in. Like, you can see the sort of yellow cell there on this document, showing that all the players are bringing. The average age is below 23, but the average age of players was 25, and that included your Aaron Moyes. You know, we obviously lost Starfelt, Jota. Obviously, Turnbull as well has got a lot of experience about him as well, and we've moved him on. Yeah. But obviously, the boys are bringing in, you can see it, 22, 23, 20, 21, 22.
I honestly cannot believe we get £2 million for David Turnbull, who was out of contract in the summer.
It wasn't bad business, that, to be fair.
Honestly.
Bad business. But if you look at that compared to Ange last season, it's above 23. When I say 23, I normally say 23 and below. You normally play training compensation for a player, so they're technically classed almost developing still. Yeah. So really, 24 is more sort of experienced, but it wasn't heavily weighted towards those 21s and 22s last year. You know, we brought in experience. Aaron Moy we brought in. We obviously brought in Johnson, Carter Vickers, brought in Awata. So players like that. But the interesting thing between these two things, when I talk about a recruitment strategy, is there's been a few things that have went wrong. In terms of, if we look at Angie last year, we brought in Oliver Abelgard, and I believe we paid £1 million to Ruben Kazan for him on loan. I don't think he played a handful of games for us. And also Moritz Jens went back as well after 6 months, which starts making me think, is there a sort of pattern developing here? And then when you look at who we're bringing in this year, Marco Tullio's barely kicked the ball, Cohen's barely kicked the ball, Lagerbielke's barely kicked the ball. Home, I don't know if he's injured just now or not. He was in about the team at one point. I'm saying to myself, who's actually making these decisions?
Yeah. I've just heard in my ear, William, for the football monitoring board that Big Abelgard did get his fair share of games, but it was wee David Ficantine playing FIFA.
It's interesting that you say that, because me, Baz and Jai Pierce spoke about it, and me and Jai Pierce spoke about it as well. For me, I think we signed far too, like you said, about 35 gems. We signed too many, expecting it to be good. Like I said, if the summer budget in the summer, the budget was £20 million, I'd rather we went out and spent, if it need be, 4 players worth, just say, £17, £18 million, and then going out and spend £2 or £3 million on maybe a gem or so, and have the 4 impact players at your core, maybe defence, midfield, striker, maybe a goalie or a winger, and that be guy come off the bench to add to the quality of what they go. Obviously, you've lost Rogic and Moy and stuff, so you need to play same. But I don't think we've bought enough players to come in, especially for the European side, in my opinion, because for me, Celtic in Europe, I think as much as we always believe we'll do things and we'll maybe progress this year, we're powder puff, in my opinion. Like I said, I'm not a professional player, William, and I know that some of these players that play with Lazio and Madrid are very, very good, but in my opinion, I know Feyenoord won the league, I know Lazio done well the year before, Madrid have done well for years. Madrid take away the Madrid game because you didn't expect anything after him. The home, in my opinion, the draw at home was like a victory because it was a fantastic result, performance, away at home. Again, RODGERS, he seems to set up this 3 up front everywhere, even in Europe. I think Barcelona was at Roberts, Sinclair and Berry up front, I think. Why would you go up and play 2 winners away from home against Barcelona? Why would you not go to your 5 in the middle, at least try and make it compact, and then the PSG were 1-0 up and he still kept the same formation? Why not just go park the bus? If you beat 2 or 3-0, fair enough, that's expected. But then when it goes to 6 and 7 and potentially 8 or 9 or 10, you've got to look. That's when you've got to look at the manager as well. So I'm agreeing with you, Will. I think we can all agree, and as a fan base, that the recruitment strategy's not been great. Under Ange, when he first came in, I think as much as we give the board maybe a bit of jip, you've got to praise the board in terms of Ange's first window. The board don't know about Kyogo, Hatate, Maeda, etc. They've backed them blind, like £4 million will get them in. But for me, I don't know what you think, William, but in terms, if you look at maybe certain individuals, your Sinclairs and stuff, his major signings that he spent money on take away this season, they normally worked these teams when he's paying good money for them. I know Liverpool was that was just crazy money. That was crazy money. But for Celtic, your Sinclairs and Chams, I thought the Cham on his day was very, very good. Maybe a bit lazy, but he was very good. But for me, William, I think you've heard it in there. They're trying to, and Baz has heard it as well. They're signing so many young players, expecting them to go on and play, but they don't know what it means to be here. At home, experience in his own country, played over 100 games for Valencia. Comes to Celtic and it looks decent, but these guys don't know what it means to be here. Like Baz says, you go for a meal, it should be okay to do that, but the Celtic fans, it's not.
Home was a standout in Norway, to be fair. He was a standout player in that league, but it's a big jump going for the Elite Series to Celtic. In fact, it's a big jump going for the Elite Series to play Champions League, and that's effectively what him and Lager Bielka have done. Came right out of Scandinavia and thrown into the Champions League. I think just to obviously go back on the sort of recruitment strategy that's been in place, somebody came up and said a question, basically stated about Jens leaving and Kobayashi coming in. So you start to think, if that was the case, is that a full footballing decision at that point? Because I think that, Ange came in and opened up everyone's eyes to the Asian market because his experience over there, and there's a massive financial benefit to bring players from those markets over here. So I think from a business and a Celtic business point of view, it makes sense going and getting these guys because you really expand the brand and it helps you financially and you grow the fan base in these regions. But there's got to be a footballing decision made somewhere along that line as well. You can't just say, right, I'll tell you what, we'll send Maurice Shinsu Dozer. I actually thought was a decent player, to be completely honest.
Yeah, no, I think we're all agreeing there.
And I was surprised at going, but if it's the case that he's in the door, we'll bring Kobayashi in because he brings with him a bit of financial clout or helps us in that region. These are the things that I'm coming back to. The board, I think you need a footballing man there in between the board and the manager. And I think that, don't get me wrong, Ange was backed a lot, and you can see that in the signs he made. But I think there's a few signings in there that are a few red flags that.
Yeah, 100%.
Like the Kobayashi one, like the Abelgard coming in on loan.
Idaguchi
coming out over as well. That could be another one. There's obviously
effectively Awata as well. I don't think Awata's made much of an impact as what we all maybe expected him to do.
Again, but even Awata, I take Awata as well. And Maeda's been good for me. I like Maeda, right? But there's lots of players that we've brought in from the City group, whether it's been Melbourne City, we brought Tulio in from, whether it's Yokohama, we bring the Japanese boys in from. We've brought countless many players have come up the road from Manchester to come into us. Almost felt as if that for a time that was our go-to club. You know, Peter Lawwell phoned his boy and saying, how many players have he's got available? Who's available and can we get them up the road?
You think Celtic, I think you spoke about JP, or was it Baz, or was it Alan? I can't remember who it was. But recently, do you think Celtic are basically in the City group, but it's not official?
I don't know if they're not part of City put it this way, they don't get any benefits from it. I don't think at all. But what I do think happens is there is a connection between the clubs, and I think that it's easy for them to pick up the phone and say who's available. Probably easier when Mark Lawwell was there. Obviously, Mark's here now, and I'm sure he's relying on a lot of connections, a lot of people he deals with there. That's natural for anyone leaving a job and going to another job. I've not got an issue with that in that sense. Like, if you can use that to your advantage, great. But I just think some of the decisions when we're signing players is not a total footballing decision. Don't get me wrong. I understand it's a business. I understand that we've got to bring players in, sell them on for bigger money, and then that helps us develop things and make an academy better, build a new facility down at Barrafield. That's fine, but it's the here and now. It's at the point now that Rangers have caught up with us on how many point swing has it been? 12-point swing or whatever it's been, or 15-point swing. And we're now sitting asking questions, and it's March. We're coming up to March now. We could have fixed it in the last window, and I just feel as if we haven't, and I feel as if it's just came back to bite us.
William, do you know, you'll know this side better, obviously, with the scouting and things like that. Obviously, in the summer, Brendan was Celtic were getting linked with Wilfred and Didi, Daniel Podence and people like that. For me, looking at that, I think that was his main targets. Quite possibly. There's normally never smoke without fire, really. So they probably did likelihood want the two players. Do you reckon he's then got a list that he then needs to fall back down that list after he gets told the club we can't afford them? Or do you think the club have contacted them and they don't want to come, or it's financial reasons and then he needs to look further down his target list?
I've no doubt that the club would have inquired about those players if he's spoke about them, because at the end of the day, the club have brought this guy in, so they're going to trust him with that side of it. But for some reason, whatever reason is that they've not wanted to come in, they've then had to fall back on what the recruitment team have been doing probably over the last 6 to 12 months. And a lot of those players that they're probably working or looking at in that mould was always suit the way Ange wanted to play. So when they've been doing it, there's probably a lot of players on that list that Brendan probably doesn't even know, with the greatest respect to him, because they're in different markets. And I think he's maybe went, do you know what? I trust you. You've done your homework. Let me look at him. He'll probably vet him on the video footage. They'll probably look at the data profiling and go, yeah, okay, we'll have him. The only thing, look, recruitment for me is so hard. It's one of the hardest things I think in football to get right, and get right consistently, because there's just so many factors. And I think we were touching on players coming from all different parts of the world, culture shocks, not speaking the language. That's massive for a lot of players. See, when you're doing your analysis and you're doing your scouting and reporting, there's a lot of the bits of the player you don't see. You don't know the player. You don't know what they like, their personality, how they're going to be in the dressing room. You don't really find that out when they walk through the door at Lennoxtown. So to answer your question, Barry, I think he has done that and went in with his list. For whatever reason, they couldn't get those lads. And I think what's happened is he's fallen back to the plan B, which has probably been the list been generated over the last 12 months. And I think there's been decisions made there that, yeah, we'll bring him in. And then once they've come in, I think Brendan's went, this guy's not ready. This guy's not ready to do it.
I'm sure Baz as
William,
well.
there's a clear.
What was his name? Was it, I think the boy Fabian Reader, Baz, he was linked off somewhere as well, wasn't he?
Aye.
Yeah, right.
Eric Dyer's another one.
Sorry, JP.
William, there's a clear pattern, obviously, right? We go back to the Mortigens being, shipped away and replaced by Kobayashi. This has happened before. We let Eric Sviatchenko go and we brought in Marvin Compton and Jack Hendry to replace him at that time. So this isn't our first rodeo in this sort of predicament at the moment. But again, there is certain individuals still at the club making these decisions. And that's the overall issue here. That's where something needs to change. And I think you're onto something there be, better for the business model, and obviously to help the player trading model also, that we bring a football guy in that can work closely with the manager and say, right, what do you want to do? Because I don't think anybody's actually went to Brendan and says, what do you want to do? Because see, from afar now, guys, I don't know how any of you feel on this. Baz, I'll come to you with this one first. Brendan goes to Mallorca and he meets up with Cal McGregor and he meets up with Michael Nicholson and the boy does it, is it Chris, what's his name? Does the finances. Chris Mackay. It does the finances for Celtic as well. So he meets him and they obviously, give him a spiel about coming back to Celtic and stuff. He's got to have been promised something. Like he's to have. I mean, I heard Brendan tell him, was it Chris Sutton? He had an option to go to Saudi. So there was obviously. Listen, it's Brendan Rodgers. It's not just a novice off the street we've brought in here. This guy's well known in the football world, and it's, in my opinion, he's an elite football coach. He's worked at the highest level for a very, very long time, and he's always had a right proven track record of getting the best out of teams and individuals in the teams. But to get him back to Celtic, he must have been promised something. You know, he's clearly been promised, you know, and now it looks like, just as Williams giving us a few points here and what he thinks maybe is wrong, it's kind of starting to paint a picture that some of it hasn't been true, and that you know, if he had went to them, that's actually worrying William, the fact that you're saying he might have went to them with a few on his list. He never get any of them.
No. A lot of that he could do money though, like Wilfred and Didi must be on a few quid. They'll be in Leicester City have parachute payments going into them. They'll
both be on big money.
Aye, big time. Like they'll be on 50 plus probably down there. So that doesn't fit our structure. I saw Lee sort of cut the mention about the wage structure and things like that. 100%. But you don't need to go and find players at 20 and 21 to suit the wage structure that we've got at the club. There's other areas that you keep, all leagues and markets. If you do your recruitment well, you do your analysis well of it, you can go and get those players, and I'm sure there'll be lots of players that want to come to Celtic and play Champions League football that was guaranteed last year. There've been tons of players that are ability-wise and experience-wise, they can come in and do the job for us. It's just.
Oh, here's one, William. Here's one there. We've recently been linked to a guy for Karabag who's 32 years of age.
From where, sorry?
He came in he's 32 years of age, and he plays for Karabag. He used to play for Hibs. I can't remember his name, but he played with Hibs about 10 years ago. He was a young lad, but now obviously he's 32. But Brendan Rodgers is quoted, and I seen a comment earlier on, I can't remember who it's from. He's quoted in saying that things are changing in terms of the way they're looking at recruitment. The Baz, I know you were shaking your head there, but is that a similar signing to, you know, like looking at the market for another Aaron Moy type of player? You know, because Aaron Moy was in his early 30s when we signed him. And again, I think a lot of people were kind of wary of that because it was like, what's going on here? That's not the player trading model we're in here. So, but we've now been like, I think this guy's a white player, believe it or not.
Another one.
Yeah, another one. But it must mean that somebody's going out the door. I don't know if it maybe is Leo Labada or, you know, one of the other ones that's moving on. But again,
everything you've covered tonight, I'm sure has been talked about in Lennoxtown. I've got absolutely no doubt about that. Everything that we've all sat here and talked about.
No, the watching doesn't go to it.
Aye, no. I had to meet tomorrow, William. You just uncovered it for them all.
I must have not got the invite.
Brendan's got the alarm clock set for 7:30 tomorrow. He's in here playing notes. Barry, what was that? He's reminding that, and he's going, Barry Bannon says, aye. So, aye, definitely, right, okay. So, rotations. So Ryan says Anthony Ralston ran into Matt O'Reilly's area and shouldn't have been there. Right, I'll remember that one for tomorrow. I have no doubt in my mind that's what's going on.
But no, all the information we've looked at tonight is readily available to these guys, and I'm sure they've got analysts up there pulling the numbers together and pulling all the visualizations with the data to paint a picture and show them. So if they're going for somebody with more experience, then that would make sense because they've not brought anyone in this year so far who really has that experience.
See, I'm kind of with Baz. I'm the same. I said to you, JP, when I seen it, I'm like, I get the Aaron Boy thing is right. Aaron Boy's played at a top level. It's clear this guy's from the cat. Again, Karabag are decent. They're in Europe. I get that, but they're not the quality teams Aaron Boy's played with, especially because he's played at international. Aaron Boy, the only reason
but it's that sort of profile of
no, I get what you're saying, but in terms of
I wasn't just meaning his
ability-wise, Aaron Boy, I said to people when it on chats and group chat, everything, what a signing. People are, he's this age, he's a free agent, he's came from China. About going to your research, go and look at him. Go and look at his last few games before he went to Celtic for Australia. He hardly played for 4 or 5 months, and he went to the, I don't know if it was Asia Cup or something, and he was probably the best player. So it just shows you that you can be fit, but Baz will tell you yourself, you can be fit, but see if you've got that. What do they say? Forms temporary, classes permanent. With Aaron Boy, it showed you that, and Baz, I'm agreeing with you when you shoot. That was the same. When I seen the rumour, again, it's a record of the Sun, so you don't believe it, but I seen the link to it, and I'm like 32. See if that's from about 6 months or the end of the season to get you the line, fair enough. But yeah, I get experience, but maybe 28, 29. No, for me, you're trying to prolong. For me, Aaron Boy was a stopgap for a season or two to help Ange, help the team. That's maybe a stopgap. So, Baz, I'm agreeing with you, mate, in terms of because I was the same when I heard that rumour, and I'm thinking, changing the model, why? Maybe the 27, 26, 28 guys who have been there and done it. No 32, 33.
It's a big jump going for Azerbaijan to Champions League and all then, isn't it? If I'm talking about Norway and Sweden, do you know what I mean? So, bizarre.
Just come back on the JP thing about Brendan. I would find it hard to believe if he's been promised and let down again that he would still be there and accepting it. Especially after how the first time went. I don't believe that the board's let him down that much this time. I reckon whatever they've told him probably has happened, and we have still spent money. And like I touched on the other night, there's not one of the new signings that if your team, you've got everybody fully fit, you're finding it hard to say that any of the new signings would hold down a place in the best starting 11 when everybody's fit. So I don't know how many signings comes in. Maybe you'll know, William. How many is Brendan made
this year?
Aye.
So if I bring that back up, sorry, that was the year before. At the top there's the signings. So what's that?
Double figures, 11.
12 players have come in. Obviously, Nat Phillips has went back.
And they made £11 million profit. They made. Is that right?
Aye, with those rough figures. Aye, yeah.
Aye,
so we're cash positive. We're cash positive this year, and that doesn't even factor in Champions League.
Don't worry, we know that.
Oh, I know. I'm waiting on the accounts, isn't we? I know. I know. Share price went up, by the way.
You know what I mean? You're probably looking at them 11, and who would you say that in the strongest starting 11, if Abada's circumstances were different and everybody was fit, does any of them start?
Probably not. Probably
so
not, Barry.
For me,
maybe a small argument for Bernardo, boys.
Maybe, but then when you've got a Tati and a Riley back, does he play?
Yeah, I know your point, mate. Yeah, that's fair.
I just don't. I don't, and I think for 12 players, surely, because like I say, you got like being proactive and rather than you've got to keep going, and this is what we spoke about, letting Rangers come back this close to us. It should never have happened. And if you're buying 12 players, surely you've got to have 3 or 4 of them starting week in, week out, whenever, even if everybody was fit. You've got to, otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, because you're just effectively what you're doing is just stockpiling the squad. And we've had years of that. We've done that for years. You know, like your Jack Henrys, we've brought in, Banguras at the time, and Bayo, who's now at Watford. Guys of that ilk have came in and just helped to stockpile Celtic's team and bench and never really contributed as much. But we brought in the boy, what was the lad's name? I know it was a belter for Kilmarnock, remember? He scored the winner against us. Oh my goodness gracious me!
See that game against Leipzig when they came on? Jesus Christ, man! He gave the ball away every minute. See the full thing that kind of totally collectively rounds off at the transfer window as a whole. There's no letting James McCarthy go. That's absolutely Looney Tunes of the highest order.
When we had an opportunity to as well.
Just because they wouldn't pay a bit his wage, but you're paying his wage no matter what. He's sitting in a house or he's sitting in a gym. He's not training with the first team.
No, he's watching this podcast and to take notes so he can take it into Linux down with Memora, mate.
But for me, JP, I think it's crazy. See, surely you wouldn't deny a player. Obviously, I don't know James McCarthy, but I wouldn't think James McCarthy would say no to go to Greece for 6 months for a year. I very doubt he's going to say no to that. I wouldn't be happy here, but 6 months, new culture, new lifestyle, get away from here, get away from negativity, go maybe try and play football. He's getting to the age now where, like I say, in the summer, he's got a year and a bit left of his contract in the summer, maybe a year and a bit left. Who's going to touch him? Who's going to buy him? But if you send him out on loan in January, you might get 4 or 5 months of game time, somebody might then come in and someone get him. Who's going to want him now?
Yeah.
It's crazy. For me, it's
guys. We've still got guys like James Forrest lingering around as well. And
he was in the squad on Saturday.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But Ryan, that's not the first time he's not been in the squad this season, mate. And I've nothing against James Forrest personally. I really have.
Fantastic.
He's the luxurious career and whatever else. But
by the way,
William was saying earlier, he's not contributing.
I would be playing him this weekend. There you go.
Yeah, but we were on this morning. That was spoken about, right, boys? But he certainly should have been given more game time over what Mikey Johnson got in that run of games he was given there.
Yeah.
I do apologise, Mikey, if you're tuning in tonight, but that's, you know,
But
I do think you've had more than enough chances.
We're touching on experience and know-how. He's got it in abundance. There's 12 games left. He's not even in the squad, so is he in the changing room before the games when he's not in the squad? Probably no. He needs to be around that group of boys 100%, especially at this time now, whether it's playing or coming off the bench, at least on the bench.
Mac Goodwin was at the game on Saturday, Baz, and he never came off the bus, apparently.
So that's what I mean. That's like, and you've got young boys at 2021 that don't really know. He should be in and around at 100%, even if you're giving him 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or even just to be on the bench and no come on. At least he's there and he knows and he'll pass on information. Like, I would actually start him. Me personally, I would start him this weekend.
So would I. I've had a long think about it, Ryan. Alan mentioned that today. I actually would change my mind. I wouldn't play Palmer. I would start Forrest and Maeda. Sorry, Yang. I said Yang, didn't I? I wouldn't start Yang. I would play Forrest and Maeda. I mean, here's another one, William. Yang probably deserves more of an opportunity now to try and make some sort of position his own, more than what Mikey got. Because Mikey seemed to have more lives than a cat.
He's got the opportunity to do it now, so it's up to him, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think he's obviously went away to the Asian Cup and came back there. I think there's been times he's shown that he's got ability and he can beat a man, and I do like that. But again, I think it's just that bedding in period that he needs to probably settle in and get used to the way that we operate. And I think having a bit of confusion with the tactical plan doesn't help him either as well. But what I will say is I think he's shown some glimpses of his ability. He's got an opportunity now to try and make that place his own. So really, it really just comes down to him and how he handles that. So I suppose time will tell. Hopefully it does, because we really need to get better in those areas. So I fingers crossed that it does actually.
It's a small thing for me, William, that's really no having me with Jan. I know I can see he's got the attributes, maybe being a player, but been at St Johnstone when he was totally away offside, the tactical awareness was that's amateur stuff, William, for me. That's crazy stuff. And then at the game at the weekend, that for me, that's similar to what Baz is saying about guys knowing what it means to be here. And I'm willing to give him a chance. But for me, on Big O, I think Big O's not going to play here anymore. I think he's probably we're going to go to summer. But Yang, I'm not going to give him a bit more time, but I just don't see it just yet.
But they've got to work with him on the training ground on that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They've got to bring him into Lennoxtown and say to him, look, you need to watch your position when you're off the ball. You need to chase back when it's in transition. That's what your job is. It's your responsibility. And right now, I don't think that's happening enough. It doesn't help that we're changing the players all the time. That's probably an issue as well, that it's players in and out. And Barry touched on as well, the lads that played the front three Easter Road had never played with each other before. So that is a problem, but that causes the confusion. But really, it's one of those ones as well. It's almost like, do we know Brendan's best 11? I don't think we do.
I don't think he does either, William.
And that's a problem. Like, really, if they're trying to do shape and they're trying to do shape and tactical plays at Lennoxtown, like, who's he doing it with? Do you know what I mean? Who's he strong 11 against the other 11 or whatever? You can see that that's clearly not happening. And that's the thing that needs resolved. Like, quickly, the thing that annoys, it's probably a bit of a bugbear to me, and obviously I don't know what goes on at Lennoxtown at all, even though it's only a couple of miles up the road, but we've got John Kennedy there, we've got Gavin Stratton there, they've been there right through this whole spell with different managers, etc. So there's continuity there with that. It's not as if we're bringing a full new coaching team that you can then maybe say, right, okay, you can accept that. We've got guys there that have been like continuous right through this period, and really we need them to really be reiterating it to the players that this is what you've got to do. But there is an element of it comes to the top down, doesn't it? It comes to Brendan, it's his plan, it's his team. So look, they've got to resolve it. It's got to be resolved quickly, or I could see Rangers moving away from us, and that's the worry.
Yeah, I actually said today, lads, we could be in a position where we could win the 4 derbies and still lose the league because we keep losing silly points to the rest of the league.
Yeah,
that could be an absolute reality for us. Yeah. And I think we're all in agreement, lads. Something needs to change and change quickly. And a huge part of it for me, Baz, I'll let you back in. Obviously, we're going to finish up, but I'll let you back in this one. A huge part of it for me just now is the mentality side of things. I think a lot especially on Saturday, being there, mate, that was difficult to watch. I went into that game full of optimism, and I don't know why I had every right.
I thought we were going to win in front of 5-0.
Yeah, I know, Ryan. I was the same. I was so confident walking into Celtic Park, and I left Celtic Park with the feeling that I'd just played football. No, not angry. First of all, Ryan, I felt like somebody had just smacked me with a balls square right in the nuts. Not that one, you just take one for the team and spread yourself, and the ball just bounces straight off your cojones, man. That's the way I felt when I left Celtic Park. I was sick feeling in my stomach and everything, and what did I just watch? But I think, Baz, a lot of it's today, I mean, right before the end of the game, Callum McGregor swings his leg and slices a ball right up into the air, and there's nobody near him. And you're like, what's going on? If he's all just lost the place, and lost where he's are, and lost confidence in each other. So I think a big part of that, mate, is down to the mentality and where they are.
Well, it's probably the first time they've really been questioned mentality-wise for a long, long time now. So this is where you'll see whether they're up to it. I wouldn't say they've had it easy, but in terms of winning league titles and trophies, they've not had it like this for a while. So this is where you need your leaders to step up and come back to being worried, like William said, being worried in that. When you look at that team at the minute, the spine of the team's gone with Carter Vickers, a leader at the back. You've only really got Joe Hart and Callum McGregor, really. I know Greg Taylor's seems to be quite vocal, but 3 leaders on the pitch is a big worry. You would like to see Alistair Johnson, if he comes back, maybe a bit of a leader, but then you see him the other day when we won at Ross County, I think, and he's saying, we've won and we're getting booed.
Aye.
Does he really know what it's all about? Maybe he's still fresh to it, because that's what happens, and it has happened at Celtic for years. So you're starting to look around now, and if mentality is becoming a question mark, I fear for them, because I think they'll only get really 2 or 3 leaders on that park at this minute in time fully fit, who I would say are leaders and know what it's all about and probably have it. Then you're relying on the other ones like Matt O'Reilly, just hopefully pulling through footballing ability-wise and mentality not being in question. But still a long way to go. Like I say, football changes so quick. I know they had a meeting after the game on Saturday, which has been made with everybody knows that they've had a meeting between each other. So no doubt it's a crisis meeting, but it's about where they got what's going to happen going forward. So that can all help. But like I said, it's actions now that need the words don't mean nothing. It's about actions, and they need a big response on Sunday here. Otherwise, like you said, if there's any more slip-ups, it probably becomes a bit too much today, given how many games are left.
Yeah, definitely. William, obviously, I'll bring you in yourself, mate, just for your final thoughts on, obviously, tonight, and then, obviously, moving forward into Sunday.
Yeah, hopefully positive. Obviously, we've spoken a lot about a lot of the negative stuff we're doing at the minute, and it's obviously not great, but I think we're only just stating a lot of the facts and what we can see on the park and what's backed up with the numbers that we've looked at and some of the footage. I think that talking about the game at the weekend when we drew 1 each, sadly enough, I wasn't really surprised given what I've been looking at over the last week. And there was telltale signs there of a decline and some red flags there for me. But as Barry says, if the players have had a meeting about it with the management team or the coaching team to really get together and push on through, we really need a big win at the weekend, I think. I think we need a clean sheet and a few goals to really ramp this up and put the pressure back on ANGE to say, look, we're not going away. So, fingers crossed. Hopefully we can get a good performance and a good result at the weekend. I hope everybody that's watched tonight took something from it, or even a little bit of something from it to what actually goes on, and maybe seeing things a wee bit differently to how the team's playing. So, and also just thanks for having us on as well, guys. It's been a pleasure, and obviously nice to meet yourself as well, Barry. It's been great.
It's been brilliant, William. Obviously, all the work that you're doing, that's brilliant, and it's good to see it come and up here tonight in the podcast. It was brilliant to have you on, and no doubt we'll be in touch, mate.
No worries. Perfect.
No, 100%. Ryan, I'll just echo what Baz and that are saying there. It's been amazing, the work that Williams put into just getting a cigar for us tonight, mate. I can't thank him enough, honestly, for his hospitality that way. I really can. And obviously, cheers for taking your invitation back to come on. And Baz, it's always a pleasure to see you, mate. I miss you when I don't see you, so it's always a pleasure to get you on. Your knowledge is invaluable. It really is. And listen, I'm probably the most positive guy on this podcast. Normally, I probably do Ryan's and Alan's nothing on the group chat that we're in, because I'm always trying to spin the narrative. I'm always trying to, look for the positive somewhere. I've got total faith in this Celtic side that they can still go on. Cheers, Ian. Thanks very much, mate. Cheers for you joining us also. And everybody else that's joined us as well. I want to thank everybody. It's probably not been easy being on this long. And having to tune in and stay focused, but I'm glad we managed to get through it. And definitely, I hope this insight for everybody has maybe broadened your eyes a wee bit in terms of what actually is going on at the moment, because I think everybody just pointing fingers and shouting abuse isn't doing us any good. It's nice to know the actual true facts behind what exactly is going on. And I know some of it's quite glaring to some of us that maybe know football a bit more. Some of us that just like going to games and watching football. I think this is, definitely, I think this has been unbelievable, Ryan. And I do thank the lads. I can't thank them enough for coming on.
I think for me, mate, I know a lot of people, we can see for the eye and stuff, it's no good and stuff, but see when you actually delve into what William's done, and even Baz's knowledge and his data for playing football and his kind of insights, you don't really get to know, you don't really get the grips it until you actually see data. They go, right, okay, this is actually what I'm seeing. And like I say, some fans just go to the game, share about goals, and then they get home. But some fans like me and you and Alan as well, we actually like to go and analyse the game and actually take in things and look at games after. And don't know if it's because we do this, but or just in general. But you actually, some people don't get privy to information, JP, that William and Baz are saying. And like I say, it's actually been one of the best I've ever done, JP, just in terms of information. I've actually enjoyed just sitting back listening to Baz and William. I know me and you like to chat, mate, but I like taking information in and learning the game. And
hold on a minute. It's normally you that goes on your wee hands, mate. No, I mean, sitting there like Jimmy Calder, mate.
Obviously myself, no playing football for the last few years now through injury, mate. See, taking all this in and learning off guys and hearing stuff, mate. I wish I knew this information when I played, because I'm not saying football's a simple game, but when you realise more about football, you understand that there's a lot more you can do with yourself when you play football. So hearing this, it just shows you that what we speak on here daily, mate. We're no talking about downstairs. It's there to be seen with the data, and we're no lying to ourselves when we see it. So again, I appreciate Baz. Anytime he comes on, anytime we chat to him, his knowledge is amazing, mate. And William, again, the work you've done, mate, fantastic. And hopefully we'll chat again once. I know you're a really busy man with Baz and playing football as well, mate. But again, brilliant chat. And I hope people can take information. I know I've seen a few comments saying, we all know we're not playing good, but if you actually look at the certain aspects of what we're doing wrong and certain things in the game, you'll realise exactly that we're not going upwards, we're actually going in quite a bad decline. And I think we're all in the same kind of mould at Sunday. We need to get that kicking, and if we don't, then we could have a few more negative podcasts at the end of the season.
Yes, absolutely, Ryan. I thought one of the boys were going to jump in there if anything else to say there. But no, like I say, we've took up everybody's...
They're waiting to wrap up for the half-10 show. I've got this.
I know, you're late, mate. You're actually late. You're going to go subs, man. You're 2 minutes late on the clock, man. You need to go and get changed into your double denim and get started. But overall, guys, it's been a pleasure being on me again, and great chat. Thank you very much again, everybody that's took part with us. And I just hope we can get a positive result on Sunday. Help us try and forget about all this, negativity that's going on surrounding the club at the moment. The night's been a kind of positive and negative chat, because it's been a diagnosis of possibly some of the problems that's going on. But I think we've got to trust, a guy that's been there and done it with a manager, and guys like Callum McGregor, as Baz mentioned, Joe Hart, they've got experience. This isn't their first rodeo being in a wee bit of trouble in the season. So they, I think we've got to trust these guys. I'm a good Baz. I would bring James Forrest. I know it's going to seem like he's coming in out of the cold. But I would bring him in Sunday and set him about the Steelmen, and hopefully we can get a more positive result and a bit more impetus in their play, you know, because like we say, lads, the ball's moving probably quicker than ever before, but it doesn't look like that because of, you know, where the ball is moving to and the areas it's getting covered with. The ball speed's not the problem. The problem is we've not got any cutting edge at the moment and real quality in the final third. But overall, guys, it's been a pleasure and a massive hail to everybody that's joined us. We'll see you later.
See you later.